a little bit extra focus, maybe more than usual. You got that little bit of extra motivation that's there. What's that like? And do you feel like going into a game like, all right, we're going to win based on what we've done this week? Because Andy Reid, again, we heard from Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the one that said on Saturday night that Andy Reid came in and said the way you guys have prepared all week, you're going to go out and play good football. What you guys have done this week has set you up to be really good tomorrow. So believe that's going to happen because you've put in the work. And how much of that sort of think it into existence takes place between the ears. We'll talk with Kendall Gammon about some of those things. And, of course, the big top 10 matchup in the MIAA this weekend with Northwest Missouri State traveling down to Pittsburgh to take on Pitt State this weekend. Get the skinny on that from Kendall Gammon. Again, 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. So we talked yesterday and Monday as well, trying to figure out the defense. What do we make of the defense? What did it look like against the Bucs? The running defense was really good, but the Buccaneers also just stopped running it. Maybe it was a combination. They figured the way to get back in the game is just to simply put it in Tom Brady's hands. The other part of it is the Chiefs' defense was doing pretty well against the run. I think they handled themselves against the Colts against the run as well the week before. I think they've done pretty darn well this year as a running defense. So combination of their success along with the Bucs viewing and saying the best way to come back in this game is to attack through the air. And they had some success, and Tom Brady threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, had almost 400 yards passing. So it's like, what do you really make of the defense? Because they gave up points, and it ended up being a 10-point game, and was the game really as close as the final score? Yada, yada. So we talked on Monday about the Chiefs giving up a field goal when the game was within 3 scores. And we also talked with Adam Teicher about what the Chiefs were doing in the possessions when it was, within 3 scores. That it was 4 possessions in the game, 16 plays, 45 yards, and 2 first downs, and 3 points in those 4 possessions when it was within 3 scores. So they played pretty well when it mattered. And we talk about the, cumulative stats throughout the season and what the overall team looks like, as opposed to what does a team look like when it matters. And one of the things as I was going back and looking is, we look at the first quarter versus the fourth quarter, and typically that would be pretty important for a defense, for a team. What you were doing in the fourth quarter would matter in wins and losses. That you can't be losing constantly the fourth quarter and win games. The Ravens can attest to that. They've lost the fourth quarter a couple of times, and those are the games that they have lost. The Chiefs have lost the fourth quarter 3 out of 4 games. But it hasn't mattered. The one time they won the fourth quarter, I guess it did matter then. The one time they won the fourth quarter was against the Chargers. They won that fourth quarter 13-7. The Colts, they lost the fourth quarter 7-0. It mattered. So those 2 games, yeah, it made an impact. But losing to the Cardinals in the fourth quarter 14-7, losing to Tampa Bay in the fourth quarter 7-3, doesn't really matter. Didn't matter in those contests. So one of the things I wanted to look at to maybe put into context of the way the defense is playing is, what have they done in the first quarter? Because we know the Chiefs' offense has been awesome in the first quarter outside of the Colts game. 3 out of 4 games the Chiefs have played this year, they have entered the second quarter with 2 touchdowns on the board. 14 against Arizona, 14 against Indianapolis, and 14 against Tampa. They have been, or in the first half, I should say. They had done that. So the first quarter, as we look at what they have been doing, they've lost the fourth quarter or the first quarter 1 time. Again, that was against the Colts, oddly enough. So, it's one of those things that's comes back to get you in that particular game. But as we look to what they've done in the first quarter, they have scored 34 points in the first quarter. 14 against Arizona, 14 against Tampa, and then 6 against the Colts. So 34 points they have, and they've given up a total of 13. In the 4 games, they're leading 34-13 at the end of the first quarter. That, to me, is the biggest part about what the defense is doing. We could talk about, the passing defense, the running defense, the pressure on the quarterback, what the secondary has done. L'Jarius Sneed, is he the defensive MVP? Is Chris Jones the defensive MVP? Both of them have been really awesome. Look what Jalen Watson has been doing. Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill, the way they're playing together. Nick Bolton has been Nick Bolton. Without Willie Gay, Darius Harris has stepped up. Trent McDuffie's only played in 1 first quarter this year, and that was against Arizona. So the full allotment of pieces for this Chiefs defense hasn't really been there. But yet the way they have started games, the way they have entered games, they give up 3 against the Chargers. They give up a touchdown against the Colts. They give up nothing against the Cardinals and 3 points against Tampa. And they have 13 points that they have given up this year in the first quarter. 34-13, this Chiefs team is leading when it goes into the second quarter through 4 games. And Shaq Barrett talked about after the game on Sunday that the game flow changed. Kind of an excuse for his defense, saying, well, once they got the early lead, that it was a little more difficult because they were able to do anything they wanted. They were able to throw and they were able to run it. And what he's missing in that assessment is they got the early lead because they went down and scored on your defense multiple times. And that's what created that early lead. He's eliminating that based on, the fumble happened, and then our offense couldn't get points on the board, and all of a sudden, we're down 14-3. We're down 21-3, 21-10. It changes everything, but your defense gave those things up. The Chiefs are starting fast, and they are playing defense in a way that is allowing the offense to start fast and then play with the lead. And that changes a whole lot when you've got Patrick Mahomes in the Chiefs offense. So just looking at that and saying fourth quarter they're losing, they've been outscored 35-23 in the fourth quarters this year, and they're 3-1. In the first quarters, they've outscored teams 34-13. It changes so much in a game when you get out to a lead like that. I expect the same thing to happen against the Raiders. I think Steve Spagnuolo has his defense ready to go, and we felt these things about the Chiefs, wondering what their offense would look like after the first possession. That, to me, is also what goes into it. Defense getting stops, and the offense, second possession, third possession, continuing what they did the first go-around.
It's just hard to extrapolate from 4 games when the first quarter of 2 games was so thoroughly compromised by the kick returning. True. Just does. That's the one thing that I kind of go back to. Shaq Barrett deserves the smoke that he's received these last few days because he said the thing and then it was the thing and then all of a sudden you couldn't defend it like that. The Chiefs have been on both sides of that. The Bucs have been on both sides of that.
Right.
But it isn't the Buccaneers' defense's fault that. That they opened the game by giving the Chiefs incredible field position, just like it's not the Chiefs' defense's fault that the Colts had the exact same gift given to them very early on. Ultimately, though, if you want to have both of those things wash out more or less, I think your overall point can still stand there, which is just that both sides of the ball are working, and they're both working at varying depths of the game. I think, as you kind of are inferring, I really don't care about quarter stats, especially once you take them out of a certain game, because you could give me the Chiefs' fourth quarter totals for the year, and as you've laid out, that would not tell you if the Chiefs are good or not.
Yeah.
That would tell you if the Chiefs are behind or not, or how they're playing later in the game, and all of that. Out of the gates, I think is very interesting, but it is just football is funny that way because extrapolating beyond your individual circumstances is very difficult. Because against the Cardinals, you have a team that was playing without any of their offensive weapons, any of their actual pass rushers. And so, okay, well, it's the Charger, it's the Colts game, it's the Cardinals game, so that is what it is. Okay, well, the Colts and the Bucs, we've kind of checked off with their special teams issues, and then you can go back to the Chargers and go, okay, that right there, that was a meeting of two teams we think are pretty good. But it's funny, even just like I was unsurprisingly, this is becoming a part of my brand. I was listening to the Athletic Football Show on the drive-in this morning.
When did you start that?
I know. I've never. Funnily enough, I really did start listening to it on a daily basis, mostly this season. Give us a little more to talk about, and also it gives a national perspective that's a little less first takey, if you will, where the end goal is actually good analysis.
Yeah, right.
I really appreciate that. That's what I think. If you're looking for like the Ringer and the Athletic shows from a national perspective, you can learn about the rest of the league without only learning about the Cowboys. It really helps. But like they were going through in today's episode their team rankings, and both of the guys that were talking, Mays and Mike Sando, their top tier of definite Sharpie contenders were the Chiefs and the Bills, and then Mays also had the Eagles in there. But there was very little conversation about the Chiefs or the Bills in this episode because that's no longer a question. Like, we are roughly 23.5% of the way through the season, and there are no more systemic doubts about the Chiefs. What were they going to look like in this new form? How are they going to look early in games, late in games, when they needed to figure things out? And ultimately, I think you could pretty much chop and screw this however you want and take different chunks of different things to try to get a closer look. And I think under pretty much every magnifying glass, the 2022 Chiefs are getting a gold star.
Yeah.
Hot starts, clutch finishes, and a perfectly fine middle that keeps everything where it needs to be. It has been, I know this is crazy, not very far away from that Colts game that was such a nightmare, but it's been a relatively dominant start for the Chiefs in terms of what they have done adjusted for their opponents.
And here's the one thing that I sort of extrapolated from looking at the first quarter in the individual games and then in totality. The Cardinals, they were up 14-0. The Bucs, they were up 14-3. The Chargers, they were trailing 3-0, and the Colts, they were trailing 7-6. The two games that were laughers started off that way, and the Chiefs never let up.
They kept it that way. The foot on the gas. God, yeah, absolutely. That I think is super valid.
We haven't we've how many conversations was it 2020 that we were having conversations about why these games are the Chiefs bored? Are they just making these games so close? Like they're winning, but like the Falcons should have won that game if it was an interception in the end zone. This team was close late. The Chiefs had a huge lead against the Bucs, and then the Bucs came back in the second half. The Saints game, and the Saints get back in it, and they took these leads, and all of a sudden it became a game late. The two times they've taken early leads, it has not been a game. They have kept the foot on the gas, and they've scored 40 each time. And I believe if the Chiefs hadn't been punking the Bucs the way they did, I don't think Mahomes gets sort of cavalier and throws the interception to Juju Smith-Schuster.
Absolutely.
I think he was just out there, free-flowing, street balling, if you will.
And continuing to push.
And then he throws the ball, and he's like, oh, wait, the cornerback was there. I think there's a little bit of, hey, we're just having fun now. We're just doing whatever we want. I think if it was you better be on your P's and Q's, T's crossed, I's dotted on this play because you're down 3 against the Bucs in the fourth quarter, I think that might have been different. But they aren't letting teams get back in it and making it close in the fourth quarter.
And that pivot I think is a good one because the way teams get leads is going to be inconsistent based off of things like Sky Moore and the back for the Buccaneers whose name is escaping me because it's been 2 days.
Rashad White.
Thank you. I think it's spelled slightly different than Rashad.
R-A-C-H-A-A-D.
And that's right. I think it's Shad and there's 2 A's.
Rashad.
It's special teams fumbles and mistakes and all of that. But back to, I think you're right. I think it was 19 or 20. There were even conversations where reporters, these were when I was in the room, so by reporters, I might mean myself. This isn't a shot.
These reporters over here.
But these reporters who were including me were kind of tiptoeing up to the podium sometimes and be like, hey, coach, are you like ever saving the good stuff if you get a lead? Because it kind of seems like you're doing that. Yeah. And he's always like, no, not really. No, I don't do that. And then everyone's kind of like, yeah, no, he actually does do that though. We all see it. Like that is a part of the format for Andy Reid. I think we've been having conversations about Andy Reid taking his foot off the gas since approximately 1999, the first year he was the head coach in the NFL. I think there's something about that. Hey, you don't want to use your best moves late in a game that you've already got pretty well controlled. Let me add one more wrinkle to it.
Yes.
Do you know what makes it a lot easier to continue to keep your foot on the gas late in games without giving away your really good bleep, your reserves in the cellar?
I'm going to guess you're the player of your defense.
That actually was not what I was going to say,
Okay.
but you know what? Good point. Fair enough. I'm saying on the offensive side on this element of it, being able to just sort of move human bodies and then run the ball for 6 or 7 yards a carry, when all of a sudden the defenses get worried that Patrick Mahomes is going to find one of his 5 weapons at any given time. When you're running out there in 2 and 3 tight end sets, which will make it very easy to move bodies.
Yeah.
If they've got corners out there, and if they've got linebackers out there, you can just throw the ball to number 87 or 88 or Noah Gray 84, 83. Woof. Justin Watson 84. My apologies to Noah Gray. I'd like to see that number a little more on the field. So whenever you find the ways that the offense can be more sustainably consistent, that helps you keep your foot on the gas without feeling like you're having to hit the NOS button. And of course, yes, absolutely. If your defense can just give you the ball back, all of a sudden, a field goal is a legitimate addition to your margin of victory. Being able to score a couple possessions in a row when the other team's not able to do anything, all of a sudden now that 7-point lead or that 10-point lead, a 10-point lead in football goes away all the time. A 17-point lead is a different story. A 20-point lead feels like a ton to dig back from, even in the first half. So I do think there's something interesting there about how the Chiefs are settling in. I think there are probably about 100 different ways you could observe that, explain it, extrapolate it, and I don't think there's any world in which you'd be able to cover all of them because it's probably all a little bit true.
Yeah, so I was looking back. It was 2020 that took place, that there was there were the late comebacks that made it too close for comfort. Tampa Bay, they were up 20-7 at one point. They won 27-24, and the Chiefs got the ball back with 4 minutes to play. If they had gone 3 and out or gave the ball back to the Bucs, there's a chance to tie the game when they were controlling that thing. Miami, they were up 30-10. The final score was 33-27, and Miami had an onside kick late. They didn't get the onside kick, whatever. New Orleans, they were up 29-15 in the fourth quarter. They won 32-29. They got the ball back with 2:10 to play, in which New Orleans had 2 timeouts, but the Chiefs picked up 2 first downs on the ground and won the game. Those games were never in doubt until they were in doubt at the end. And that's where these 2 of the first 4 games, when they have taken early leads, nobody was concerned about Arizona in the fourth quarter. Nobody was concerned about the Bucs in the fourth quarter.
Here's something that I hadn't considered, looking at that 2020 schedule again. They actually were winning games by multiple possessions all the way through week 8. They had one loss to the Raiders, obviously, but then through week 8, they were winning games by 2 possessions. Then it was the Panthers and then the bye. That Panthers game was 1 possession. Raiders game next week was 1 possession. Bucs, Broncos, Dolphins, Saints, Falcons. The back half of the year were all 1-possession games. Let's just put a pin in that and see what we're talking about here in November. And let's see if that happens again. I have no idea. I wouldn't predict it. I'm just surprised to see it look this clear in retrospect. I'm curious if we're going to be in a different spot in again late November, to where we're saying, hey, remember when we talked about how consistent the Chiefs were at keeping their foot on the gas? Now all of a sudden they've had a bunch of 1-score games, and now I'm getting worried. I have no idea if that'll happen, but let's just remember this conversation.
Carolina, too, I think that's where it really started, because Carolina, they were up 33-24 in the fourth quarter. So you're up 9 in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes to play?
I don't remember one thing about this game.
I don't
remember this game happening.
What I remember is the Chiefs were up 9 in the fourth quarter with, I think, 4 or 5 minutes to play, and the Panthers had a field goal in the air to win it.
You could have given me 3 guesses at the quarterback also, and I would not have gotten it.
Teddy Bridgewater?
It was Teddy Bridgewater. The Teddy Bridgewater Carolina Panthers era. What an absolute meteor streaking across the night sky.
They were up by 9 late in the fourth quarter. They won the game by 2, and the Panthers kicked a field goal and missed it. It was a 67-yarder was the attempt, and right when he kicked it, it was right, so you knew it wasn't going to happen. But they had a kick in the air. 67 is a kick and a prayer. Mm-hmm. They had a kick in the air to win that when the Chiefs were up by 9, and I'm looking at it with 2:15 to play. They were up by 9.
It's a Nathaniel Hackett chip shot, we call it.
Yes, that's right. And that was the start of you're taking early leads and the teams are coming back. Taking early leads, teams are coming back. And it was the start of, is this team bored? Are they showing how good they are? And then letting up because, okay, now let's get on to the next week. Eventually, let's get to we've done what we needed to do. Now let's get to the next week so we can get to the playoffs. We haven't seen that yet. There have been closer games with the Chargers and the Colts. They made the plays against the Chargers. They made the plays against the Colts until the ref made a play, and then they didn't make a play. And they made plays all day against the Bucs, and that was a laugher. So
bad news, actually, from that Chiefs-Panthers game.
Yep.
The Chiefs actually did lose that game. The Panthers possessed the football for 38 minutes to the Chiefs' 22 minutes.
See?
That was a blowout.
Yeah.
We got to focus on the right stats, man.
I thought they won, but turns out you're right. They definitely lost that game. What was the final score? 38 to what?
38 to 22.
Wow, I thought they won 33-31, but they lost 38 to 22.
They lost big, more than one possession.
That's what happens when you got Teddy Bridgewater and an injured Christian McCaffrey. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
All right, we'll see what happens Monday.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Even though last night I did suffer my worst fantasy football beat.
Nobody cares.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Beautiful. That was from yesterday. Nice job, Beards. From yesterday with Braden Gall. Not true. Everybody does. People say they don't, but they really are interested in how the bad beat happened. Just as, SVP and Stanford Steve, they do the bad beats, and people watch it.
They do have the advantage of being able to show the highlights.
What?
I do think that's a pretty important part of, all right, here we go. You have Northwest Eastern Appalachianville here. They were a 47-point underdog, plus 47 here, but watch what Georgia State does next.
And how about that? They were 47-point underdogs, and they led by 20.
They were up.
They got outscored by 68 in the fourth quarter. What a terrible bad beat.
Nobody cares.
Oh, I love that.
Could we drop that audio into bad beats? Like, that might be the evolution. It's like, hey, let's just really let Braden be the wedge that drives in between the rest of sports media.
We'll do weekly fantasy bad beats.
That's perfect.
With that just in the background.
Nobody cares.
Let me.
Is that a loop?
Yes.
Yeah, you could do that and just lower the volume.
Nobody cares.
There's a loop button.
I know there is, but I just hit it.
Nobody cares. 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 Nobody cares.
Yes, I do.
good stuff.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Oh, come on, I was about to go in, Beards.
Text says for you on Monday, just go on air at the end of the first quarter of Monday Night Football.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
If they're up
Beards,
big,
you good? You gonna do that on Monday?
What was that now?
Post game, end of the first quarter. Chiefs are up. We start the post game show.
Oh, I'd love it.
Yeah, that works for me.
Let's go.
if they score 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, if they're up 14-0, 14-3, something like that, just go ahead and start the post-game show because it will be over at that point.
I'll say this right now. If they score 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, you're gonna most likely hear the 6 best words on radio, which is Sad Fans on Reddit Raiders edition on Wednesday. Let me tell you.
They got to beat them down.
Let me tell you.
They need a beat down.
I've just for fun, I've listened back to some of the some Sad Fans recently, and I forgot how excellent.
Honing your craft. You're reviewing your own film.
Exactly. I'm brushing up on what I've done. I forgot how excellent some of the Raiders ones are. They're good.
Like you're reviewing the film. I'm going back to study.
Gotta go
what
study
I did.
the tape.
Yeah. By the way, I did not realize this. A couple of texters have alerted me to that. Rashad White went to Center High School here in KC. KC kid. Rashad White for the Bucks.
Oh, no kidding.
I had no idea.
Whoops.
I know it now. I'll never forget it now.
Locked in.
That's right. How about that? Thank you.
Remember that your name was spelled sort of different, Rashad. Sorry
Thank you,
that
texters.
you've mostly gotten slander around Kansas City. Appreciate the gift at the beginning of the game.
I wish I remembered that.
We got it now, though.
I will forever remember.
He's a rookie,
Rashad
right?
White.
He'll be around.
And he's
See, hey, you know what? In February, we're going to remember that.
That's exactly. Yep, absolutely. And in fantasy football, waiver wire guy. They're liking what.
Nobody cares.
Oh,
In February, in the Super Bowl, we'll be looking
In
for
Arizona.
Rashad White and to see what if he can do anything to slow down that Buffalo Bills defense. Could it get them on their heels?
we went to Arizona State, so maybe he'll be there. Working Radio Row.
Ooh, that would be. Let's do that. Okay, all right. We'll talk to him in February. How about that
right.
pivot right there?
That's
Wow,
right.
that's good. All right, so you think it's Bills Eagles then?
That's the really only one.
The NFC is hammered drunk right now. By
Yeah.
the way, absolutely blasted. That entire conference. Who's good? I don't know. Eagles probably. Giants are 3-1.
Do you think Eagles Bills or Eagles Ravens?
That's good.
in
I'll
the
tell you
Super
what.
Bowl
Listen.
this year?
Listen. I know that we're having a lot of fun around here, but I would like to watch. I think Eagles Ravens would be pretty fun football. Lamar Jackson versus Jalen Hurts just feels good.
Well, this weekend is Jalen Hurts versus Kyler Murray, where I believe last year they put up a combined 900 yards between the two and like 8 touchdowns. It was just a ridiculous back and forth running and throwing, and nobody could stop the other team. It was very highly entertaining, especially if you had them on your fantasy team.
Nobody cares.
Thank you. All right. People care about
Beard's
the Chiefs.
just going to hotkey that. We're
That's
going to
great.
hear it a lot. It's
I can
gonna
do
be
it
good.
right now.
I
I
believe
might.
you. I'm not threatening you. I'm just waiting for it to officially happen.
Hotkey it. Hotkey.
I need to put it in the system first.
Hotkey
Nobody
it.
cares.
So, Patrick Mahomes was on with Rich Eisen yesterday.
Oh.
And the Chiefs are playing the Raiders this week. So Granted, this may be more of a conversation for next week after the Raiders. But just in the back of your mind, let's listen in. Rich Eisen asked Patrick Mahomes about playing in Tampa against the Bucs, his emotions going along with that. Last time he was there was the Super Bowl loss. Did that play in? Did that lead into how you played? Like, was that a part of the week leading up to it about the last time you were there?
I think that was a little bit of it. I think I didn't really realize that I was sitting on it and had those emotions until I got to the field that day. When you're preparing throughout the week, I was more prepared to just get our season back rolling after that loss we had in Indy. And I wanted to see how these guys responded to adversity that are new to the team. And but then once I got on that field and you kind of get in that environment, those flashbacks and those memories of how we played that day, that definitely gave me that extra motivation that I think you saw from a lot of those guys on our team that were out there when we did lose that game.
So you didn't really think about it much because obviously you got a lot going on in your world, football-wise, personal-wise, but then you step on the field and it's time to focus and time to play it. You started thinking about those days? Is that really what happened on Sunday night?
Yeah, you think about it at the time. I mean, obviously you thought about it after the game, but it's been so long now. It's been 2 years now, and you've been through some battles with some other guys, and you don't think about it. But I'll tell you what, right when you walk out there in warm-ups and you get on that field and you look around and have those bad memories, that'll light a fire under you to go out there and play your best football.
Again, I know they're playing the Raiders this week. I bring that up because I do believe Patrick Mahomes leading into the Bucs game was just about, let's get ready for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But when he steps out on the field the first time and remembers looking around the stadium, the feeling he had, and he said it fired him up. And you saw even that extra sort of bleep you after the first touchdown, after the second touchdown. Like it was a no quit. It was a we scored. Let's do it again. Let's whip their ass. Let's go play awesome football and continue this. It's probably more a conversation next week. But I bring it up because the Bills are heading to Kansas City next week. And while leading into it next week, the Bills might be talking about, well, we just got to play good football against the Chiefs. It won't be 2 years removed, but it'll be stepping on the field for the first time since they had their hearts ripped out, thought they won, hugging on the sideline, and never touched the football again. And you just watch, can do nothing about it, and you lose the game. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, those guys will be out there on the field again. So something to keep in the back of your mind for next week, even if the Bills say, we're just trying to win a game. Like that game has nothing to do with this. And even if they may believe it in their hearts, like even Patrick Mahomes was saying week leading up to it, I didn't have those. And then I got out there and I couldn't help it. Yeah. It all came rushing back.
We talked about some of that yesterday again, and that like idea of, hey, you're gonna give the extra little juice, the edge to the team that maybe gets a little boost that they weren't expecting. Like you said, next week, that's the Bills. Last week, it was the Chiefs. And Mahomes even mentioned, he kind of told that same story in post-game at the podium. So that's, I believe it. You know, it's come up a couple of times now. I don't think it's just sort of the party line of, I prepped all week just to do the best we could to prepare for the Bills, and then you step into the building, and there's a pirate ship in the background, and all of a sudden you're thinking, hey, last time I was here, I didn't have a whole lot of fun. I think there's something natural about that. You want to leave on a good note. You want to give yourself a good taste in your mouth with whatever your situation is, and in that case, I buy that from Mahomes. I think it's genuine, and I think it is probably pretty true for a lot of guys that have similar circumstances.
Yep, and again, Raiders this week, but it'll be something to keep in the back of your mind for next week, as it will be a massive game, and hopefully we're talking about the Chiefs being 4-1 leading into that game, and another dominant performance against the Raiders, and the season, as Patrick Mahomes talked about a couple of times, getting back on track after that Colts loss. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Cynthia Frelund will be our guest coming up at 11 o'clock. Kendall Gammon at noon. Mick Shaffer, 1 o'clock. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Catalogs on?
Brian Doyle Murphy.
Craig Stout.
Murray. Damn it.
That's the famous part of his name is Murray, Jason.
I know.
Why did you make him Murphy?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll talk with Cynthia Frelund about the Chiefs in the NFL as well. We still got to get into a couple of things with what may be more of a overreaction concussion protocol. I think overreaction in terms of how many people are immediately going to be put into the protocol. Not necessarily an overreaction as in gross motor instability now being for certain a no-go, whether it is because of a, air quotes, back injury. If you cannot stand and you're wobbling, you're not going to return to the game. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. On the Rich Eisen show, Patrick Mahomes was asked about the spin move touchdown. I don't know if I listened, but I don't remember this part of Mahomes in the press conference telling the story about what happened after the play and sort of what he was seeing during the play, as opposed to just, I thought I was going to score, spun around, and then saw Clyde and flipped it up there. But it was about a minute long, and it's Mahomes going through the play and the things that he was seeing, and he was asked about, what was going on in that play and if the game sort of slows down when you're doing those things.
Well, at the time, the first thing was I wanted to make sure I beat the defensive end around the edge to give our guys a chance to make a play, and I ended up getting past him. Then I was running, and I was going to run and try to score, but Devin White's fast enough that he kind of cut me off, and I did the spin move, and I remember the spin move kind of made me kind of say, oh, mate, wait, I can still throw the football. And so then once I spent and I saw Clyde, I just tried to get it out as quickly as possible, knowing that I was real close to the line of scrimmage there.
Any thought of going out of bounds at that point?
There was no thought of going out of bounds. I was either going to dive for the end zone or throw it. I think stuff does slow down a little bit. I remember talking after the game with Nick Allegretti. He was the eligible O-lineman on that play, and I remember as I was running, I looked over and saw an O-lineman in the end zone, and I was like, why is our O-lineman looking at me in the end zone? I was like, oh, wait, that guy is actually eligible to catch the ball.
So that does flash through your mind. Okay. So does that also mean you have an offensive lineman now coming up to you saying you throw it, I'm open? Is that now a new count he heard from for you? Really?
Well, he got a touchdown last year, so he knows I will throw it to him if he is open. But he was laughing because he said he's never been in a part of a scramble drill, so he had no idea where to go.
Thought that was great. He sees Nick Allegretti. Like, in his mind, he spins around, and he's like, am I going to dive for the end zone or throw it? Why is an offensive lineman in the end zone?
Facing me.
What is that? Oh, let me flip it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You know how fast he spun and then flipped it to Edwards-Helaire for his mind to go, why is that guy in the, let me throw it to Edwards-Helaire. And then he's like, oh, yeah, tackle eligible, and that's why he's there. But there's Clyde in the back of the end zone. And then Allegretti saying, like, I didn't know what to do. I've never been in a scramble drill. I don't know. I'm just standing there sort of waving my arms.
I've tried explaining the game super hot before. I think I can do it in about 10 seconds now. You only have your enemies move when you are physically moving, and if you freeze, you can stop and look around and kind of plan your next moves. They move super slowly. I think that's how Patrick Mahomes plays football. I just think he's in bullet time, matrix time, super hot, whatever. You pick your poison.
I mean, just in his mind, he spins, he sees an offensive lineman, wonders, why is he there? Well, let me throw the touchdown here. Cynthia Frelund next.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You could have also gone.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Kendall Gammon coming up at noon, and Mick Shaffer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. Some shot clock reviews as well. Right now, let's talk some Chiefs football, some NFL football with Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert, joining us here on the show in the Zone. Cynthia, how are you, ma'am?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I am doing just fine, and certainly a much easier conversation about the Chiefs this week than it was a week ago after the perplexing and head-scratching loss to the Colts, 20-17. They go and play their football and win 41-31. What was your takeaway and view from the Chiefs' really impressive performance on Sunday night?
Well, there's a lot of things to take away. Number one, when the O-line plays that well, that's incredible. Number two, I mean, look, I hate to say that, like, you know, we got a chance to see Patrick do what Patrick does, because I never take for granted the kind of genius that we're watching. But we got to see Patrick do what Patrick does. So it was pretty impressive to really understand what's capable and possible. Like, you know, all these questions. What's going to happen without Tyreek Hill? Blah, 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 blah. Right? All of those things that are very difficult. I mean, you just carved up a defense that hadn't given up any points going through. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Like, the ability for that to happen. And then the other side of the ball, like, you know, L'Jarius Sneed has, like, really, really shown up. And, I mean, to lead all defensive backs with pressures and sacks so far this season just shows, like, they're doing it different ways than we maybe have seen in the past.
Yeah, the offensive line, that's something that I wanted to talk to you about anyway, and that is because it looked like they struggled against the Colts last week, and this was a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that, you know, is a really good defense, and Shaq Barrett had some comments earlier in the week about what the offensive line looked like compared to the one in the Super Bowl, which is vastly different, but he thought it looked the same, and we were really concerned and wondering, like, what this offensive line would look like had they regressed. Were there injuries to Orlando Brown and Trey Smith, and that was keeping them from really reaching the potential of how good they can be? And the more I look back, and if it's even specifically offensive line, like it kind of feels like, you know, in the NFL, any given Sunday, you're not going to play your best game 17 weeks out of the year, and they kind of had a letdown. It's early in the season. It's only week 3, but it really feels like a letdown, kind of didn't bring it, and that's what happened against the Colts, even with the offensive line struggles, because the real test was Sunday night, and they passed it with flying colors.
I mean, yes, and I completely agree. But also, the one thing that's is zooming out one level, you know, get to the 30,000-foot level. Like, also, you know, every year we talk about this. The snaps together, the continuity, the ability to, you know, take the reps together that you and I get better every time we do a segment together, right? So, you know, at the same time, it's like, you know, now you have a completely different receiving core, which means a lot of changes to what the O-line is maybe used to. There's new plays in the playbook. Like, this is so the point is like, just overall, like, this is also, like, not surprising that now after, you know, a couple of weeks, it's starting to look better and better.
Yeah, visiting with Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. How long do you think it takes for running backs and offensive linemen to get used to each other? Edwards-Helaire has been, you know, with this offensive line since last year, so this is his second year with him. But Isaiah Pacheco in the fourth game looked much better than what he looked like in the first 3 weeks. And Andy Reid talked about that, you know, he's not just running and getting the ball and going fast, like he's reading some of the blocks and getting used to it. And maybe that's just him in general as a rookie. But how long do you think that would typically take for, you know, an offense to start to gel and where it's working in concert, the offensive line, the quarterback, and the running backs all sort of seeing the same thing?
Well, the next-gen stats show that in this last game against the Bucs, who Todd Bowles is typically masterful at stopping the run. But Pacheco had 5 or more yards per rush versus all 3 box counts. So fewer than 6 defenders, exactly 7 defenders, and 8 or more defenders. So a stacked box, a normal box, and a light box, right? So that's where you see some of that. So it's hard because I don't want to take anything away from him because it just means he's also good, right? And also it's I'm not saying like anyone could do these things, but I think that at the same time it's like to get that sort of success in all 3 different formations, that shows you that we're probably there, right? Because this is not like the Lions defense, right, where you can run on them for, I don't know, conservatively 650 yards a game. So this is, a Todd Bowles constructed run defense. So I think that that's more where you're starting to say, okay, I think we're there, especially considering that Clyde Edwards-Helaire also, he had a 6.1 yard average on rushes inside the tackles. So you want to look at where the defenses are typically the most stout. And that means that the O-line, the running backs, and the game plan are all working together. So I'm not taking anything away from, the talent of the individual backs, but to get that sort of sustained success, that is more than just their individual ability. This is the NFL. This is a good run-stopping defense.
Yeah, and so individual ability versus the offense overall, the schemes, the calls, the execution, what the offensive line is doing. One of the things that, we've talked about for a couple of years around here, and maybe really since Kareem Hunt, let's be honest, is the running backs. Are they getting what's blocked for them? Are they getting more than what's blocked for them? Are they getting less than what's blocked for them? And it has a feel that this Chiefs offense has running backs that get what's blocked for them. And not very often are they creating more than maybe what a generic replacement level running back would be able to generate. That's at least surface level what it seems like, what it feels like. But it's like, last week the offensive line struggles against the Colts. Well, the running game struggles. The offensive line was amazing against the Bucs. Well, they put up almost 200 yards against the Bucs, defense. As we look at this Chiefs team and maybe just running backs in general, I think it certainly is the case. But how much do you think these running backs that you see are dependent on the offensive line creating the yards and them essentially getting what's blocked for them and from time to time getting more?
So that's an interesting point. So in this game this past week, there were 3 players with at least 12 rushing yards over expected. So Mahomes was one of them, so maybe we should take him out of that because I feel like his rushing yards over expected is always more.
Yeah.
But both of the primary running backs earned, positive rushing yards over expected. And while it's an imperfect stat, it is a good indication and directional indication that in this case, it feels as though, we're starting to see, again, the Bucs are a really good defense to do this. But like the Colts, maybe that one was an outlier. We'll have to see which one becomes the norm and which one becomes the outlier. But they are getting slightly more than the rushing yards that are blocked for them, given similar downs, distances, and situations from other, like if you took a league average. Now, that's not always the best metric because, league average is not the expectations for the Chiefs. And also when you have a quarterback like Patrick, still not always, that's just not, it's kind of like, well, you don't average, what's that? That's below what the expectations are. So, it's a good indication if that keeps happening, the rushing yards over expected being positive for the running backs, then it would be an indication that they're creating more than what was just blocked for them.
Is it the worst thing? You want to be great, but if teams are continuing to play the shell coverage and running needs to be effective, is it the worst thing in the world to be average, league average at running the football, as opposed to just being awful to where teams are going, we'll dare you to run it. We know you're awful at it. You don't have to be amazing like the Titans or the Ravens, but if you're just league average, is that enough to then make the defenses have to worry a little bit more about the running game, which then maybe get them out of the two deeps and then let Mahomes do what Mahomes does?
Well, I would say the run game needs to stay better than average until the deep pass becomes super reliable. So, because now you have you got to remember, you're the situation that the Chiefs are currently in, changing the wide receiving core's composition, creating that opportunity for, it needs to be more than MVS just catching the 10-plus air yard balls, right? It needs to be, because if you look at this last game and you look at the past few games, it's fewer than 10 air yard passes is kind of where Patrick Mahomes has had to operate. I mean, he had a career high in 0 to 9 air yard passes this season. 114.6 is his pass rating on these passes. But it just wasn't. That's just not typically where his game focused, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So until that develops, then because these things all work together. So you're right. You can be average in the run, but you have to have multiple levels of the passing game then perform at this above average rate. So none of these things are bad because it's how they all work in concert. It's never, one thing is never going to be indicative of the whole. So I would say, diagnosing this just from an outside point of view, until the reliability happens, then you know what? That's just going to be the case.
Yeah.
And and especially considering don't blitz Patrick Mahomes. That's just stupid. Everybody knows that. But when you're getting pressures with 4 or fewer rushers, that's where you're going to need a little help from the run game, because then you've got to create more manageable downs and distances somehow. So these things they ebb and flow, and you're right. You don't necessarily need that run game to be exceptional if you've got the other things. But while these things are growing and being cultivated, you just need to be able to beat different people with everything available to you. And with Patrick Mahomes, all of the different throws are available at any moment.
Yeah, and against the Bucs, one of the things that really stood out, and people were talking about, it's the Chiefs averaged 6 yards per carry in the game. And it wasn't they didn't have one run for 60 yards and then a bunch of others that were just, smaller 2-yard gain, 3-yard gain. It really felt like each time they carried the ball, it was a 5 or 6 yard gain.
Yep.
And we've talked before about third down efficiency and how good the Chiefs were on third down against the Bucs. And one of the things that I've always taken away from our conversations is third downs, it's a good indication to look at, but what are you doing on first and second down? And out of the 15 third down attempts the Chiefs had until they went up 41-31 or 41-24, whatever it was, I didn't really care after that. But of the 15 third downs they faced, the average yards to go was 4. Out of all 15, it was 4. I mean, and that feels pretty incredible in how short of a distance for 15 different attempts. And I would guess the Chiefs offense can pick up 4 yards more times than not. And shocker, they were 11 of 15 on third downs when that happens because of first and second down.
Exactly. It's also, it's also really helpful when you keep turning the ball over that you're able to keep, remember, Tom Brady can score on you pretty quick too. We all know that, right? So when you're taking these turnovers and you're running the ball effectively and efficiently as well, that's how you neutralize a really good opposing quarterback. Right, he's the GOAT. No one would argue with that, right? So, that's the formula, right? So you have to have the right response, and being able to get a lot of yards on first and second down, no matter if it's through a short pass or through an actual run, that helps with clock management as well. So those things all work together to really put the dagger in there, because I don't think anyone and any team ever, especially maybe Atlanta, is going to be okay with until the whistle blows.
Visiting with Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Can you quantify mathematically, analytically, Mahomes and some of the plays that he does, that he creates, that it's one thing to say, okay, nobody was open, he got outside the pocket, he found Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If you're just reading it in the paper, or just a box score, touchdown pass to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it doesn't do it justice. Against Denver, when he started to really show the different things that he can do in clutch moments, when he threw the left-handed pass for the first down to Tyreek Hill, it's a 4-yard gain on third down is what it ends up being in the box score. Can you quantify things like that, or is that where one hand washes the other, where you have the numbers, the analytics, but also you're watching and seeing that this is, it's special when you get outside, you spin move, and then you do a little flip pass to Clyde Edwards-Helaire to score the touchdown?
Who's got the video game controller on that one? Because, that is straight out of Madden. I don't know where that happened.
Yeah.
But, no, you can't. Look, you can't, quantify it with any sort of, okay, well, we've just got the Patrick Mahomes factor. And it's so fun to watch and so interesting. But I will say, as for the season so far, nobody is tracking higher in terms of win share. So win share is a metric that I came up with to try to quantify, WAR in baseball. Mm-hmm. What's the individual contribution? Now, it's an imperfect stat because you have to look at the relative ranking of one player versus another. But as of right now, nobody has a higher win share than Patrick Mahomes. So he's the most valuable player in the league through 4 weeks. And, I mean, is anyone surprised? The answer is no.
No, not at all. And I love the way that Chris Collinsworth described it because it's so true. He said, he looks like the uncle out with, the little kids and is just toying with them.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not supposed to do that to NFL players. Like, you're not supposed to then get around the defensive end, spin, And we played a clip that he was on with Rich Eisen yesterday of him saying that as he spun and he turned around, he saw Nick Allegretti, and in his mind he's like, why is an offensive lineman in the end zone? Oh, that's right, he's tackle eligible. And then he sees Edwards-Helaire and throws him the ball. Like, that happened in 0.7 seconds. And
right.
In his mind is processing, why is Nick Allegretti in the tackle eligible? Oh, there's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let me throw the ball. It's just it's impressive the things that he does. And even extending a drive, it was 3rd and 7. He gets outside the pocket and he scrambles and he picks up 7 yards and gets down to the 10-yard line. And those are things that it's just like, obviously that goes to win share. It goes to, yards over expected in terms of what's blocked for them, EPA, things like that. That goes into it. But it's still just impressive when 3rd down, 3rd and 7, and he's able to get outside the pocket, scramble, pick up 7 yards, and just it's got to be incredibly frustrating to be a defense when that guy's on the field. You just never really feel safe, ever.
No, you never feel safe. You never, like I said, it's the same thing as Tom Brady. Like, until the whistle blows, nobody feels safe.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, well, we'll just have to see how this goes. Like, just keep trying to. That's why everyone wants to be able to run the ball, because it's so stupid, but it is also very true that the safest way to defend Patrick Mahomes is to keep him on the sideline. So it's a dumb. I don't really like when we get it. I understand, but it is true actually here.
Cynthia Frelund is our guest, NFL Network's analytics expert. We've been trying to figure out the defense for the Chiefs and how to put it into context of how they're playing, because I think they're playing really well. I think there's a chance that this is the best defense Patrick Mahomes will have since he's been with the Chiefs, and the best defense for Steve Spagnuolo as well. And it is a team that gave up 31 points to the Bucs and gave up all the passing yards to Brady, although gave up 3 rushing yards on the day. But one of the stats we've been bringing up, Cynthia, is when the game was within 3 scores, so when the Bucs were closer than 3 scores, the Chiefs' defense gave up 3 points total. The other 28 points came when the Chiefs were up by at least 3 scores in the game. Again, I don't know how to parse that out. How to say, well, yes, these the possessions that mattered, that they had a chance to either get within 1 score or tie the game, and the defense didn't give up a point. And when it was kind of out of hand, or they had a pretty decent lead of 3 scores or more, that's when the Bucs scored their points.
I mean, the different coverages, well, you can look at it through the lens of what were the coverages called when it was 3 score or more difference. Like, they were more conservative to try to make sure that, what was happening wasn't scores. Like, it was, back to the old bend, don't break type of thing, right? Like, they're just different, much softer coverages, minimizing the effect of, potential penalties or huge plays, right? Keeping everything in front of them. So I think the best thing about this defense is, and it's going to sound strange, but I don't even think we know who they are yet, because if you look at the history of Steve Spagnuolo defenses, they improve as the season goes on. So if this is where you're starting, then great, that's incredible. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it, is you've seen it, you saw it even when back to Giants days, right? That Super Bowl year, they started off not great at all and completely changed it around. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, to be okay, how are they growing and changing and getting better each game? And it's through different paths. But I will, I want to give enough shine to L'Jarius Sneed, because he played an incredible, a very, very special game.
I think he's the defensive MVP so far for the Chiefs, and maybe Chris Jones would be in the conversation too. But what Steve Spagnuolo does with L'Jarius Sneed, we certainly know about it around here, but he doesn't really feel like a name that's talked nationally with some of the other defensive players in the secondary that we hear from cornerbacks and safeties and things like that get a lot of shine. And I think the versatility he has, the way that Steve Spagnuolo utilizes him, and the way he is playing this year, he's playing at an all-pro level. but we don't really hear maybe I'm wrong and I'm just not hearing it, but we don't really hear a whole lot about, like, hey, the Chiefs have one of the better defensive backs in the league in this L'Jarius Sneed guy, and he's been playing pretty phenomenal football.
Yeah, I definitely think he's underrated, at least nationally. I feel like for whatever reason, it's interesting because scoring being down in the beginning of the season so significantly since 2010, it's the fewest point scores. I think that for whatever reason, I think people have been so like, well, who's going to score the points? And some of these teams, like, have been sort of surprising in bad maybe ways. So I haven't heard anyone, like, when you talk about like really people who've been playing like lights out defense, I feel like it's been a lot more, the conversation has been a lot more about like, what's wrong with the offense as opposed to like, who are these really good defenders? Plus, I mean, maybe you hear, maybe just because of Monday night, you heard more about like the Niners defense than, others. But it's a good question because I don't feel like you've been hearing much about, many, even just overall defensive players, right? Like maybe a Bosa here and there, but possibly because Joey Bosa and, TJ Watt are both out that we haven't heard of. I don't know. It's strange because I feel like you've heard far less about defense just in general than we have about offense so far this season.
The San Francisco safety is escaping my mind right now that had the touchdown on Monday night against the Rams. And the irony of his name escaping my mind and me saying, I think he's playing pretty incredible football and doesn't really get talked about either it just sort of speaks to the point that I'm forgetting his name right now. If it was like Jordan Poyer or something, what is it? Hufanga? Telling us, I mean, he's been playing really.
Talanoa Hufanga.
Yeah, he's been playing amazing football, but like, I don't know how to pronounce his name. It
does help him a little bit that there's a guy that used to be a Chief that also helps that team. Just saying.
That's true. Yep. Charvarius Ward's playing good football as well. There's no doubt about that. Why is scoring down? Why is scoring, in your mind, the lowest since 2010 through the first 4 weeks?
I think that it's down mostly because so many big-name players switched teams. This is the first time in the history of the NFL that you can have the Matt Ryan moves, the Russell Wilson moves, the Tyreek Hill moves, the Devontae, like, name me another year when so many marquee players are now on a different team.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but that makes perfect sense. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. What do you think of the Raiders? They are 1-3. They could be 4-0. They could be 0-4. They could be a number of different records as well. 0-4 to 4-0 and everything in between. How good is this team, and what do you think of the matchup on Monday night?
I think that the Raiders have a high-risk, high-reward strategy because they have such a questionable O-line. And, the interior part of the O-line especially is kind of a nightmare. I think, this is not a great matchup for them. The Chiefs, we did see Josh Jacobs last week have kind of like his first 100-yard rushing game, and it was strange because the Broncos don't typically give that up. However, Broncos were missing a couple pieces in their secondary, so it feels as though they surrendered a bit more in the run game in order to, prevent the Devontae Adams situation. So maybe that was a strategy. When I look at the defense for the Raiders, it's highly problematic on the back end. So I think this is a really great opportunity for us to see a little bit more about who's going to catch those downfield passes, because they do, Max Crosby and Chandler Jones do bring a lot of heat. They're good at bringing the pressure up front. Unfortunately for the Raiders, they're not great at backing it up with great corner play or great defensive back play, which is, those two things work hand in glove, and they kind of have to be something that, that's how it works best together. You can pressure someone, but if they can just throw over your head, like, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a difficult one. I'm also, the Raiders have some interesting. Obviously, Devontae Adams should never be counted out or not double, triple, quadruple teamed. Like, Pat Surtain had a lot of success against him, but when Pat Surtain wasn't on him, Devontae Adams really had a really nice game. So, it's going to be interesting to see how the defense looks against defending arguably the best wide receiver in the league.
Yeah. Do you have a final score of what you think the game will look like in any of the projections?
Yeah, this is a pretty big lopsided score in favor of the Chiefs. I think it's either a 9 or a 10-point win. I think it's 31-21 is what the last version came up with. And let's be honest, it could go to 32-21. We got to look at some, it's right around there. 10, 11 points, big win for the Chiefs.
All right, we'll see what ends up happening. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Cynthia, great stuff as always. Enjoy the football. Looking forward to the conversation next week when we'll be previewing a big one with Chiefs and Bills. Thank you so much for the time.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the game and to talk about Chiefs and Bills. This is going to be, to me, this could be, and I know it's only week 6 next week, but I think on the entire schedule, this is the one I'm most looking forward to.
Yeah.
Because, think about it. How lucky are all of we that we get to see Josh and Patrick come up again? These two are great, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game, and hopefully both teams take care of business, and we'll see maybe 4-1 teams this week, next Sunday. Yes. Cynthia, thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, have a great day.
Absolutely. There's Cynthia Frelund. She's the best. NFL Network analytics expert. She's got the projections, the models, a 9 or 10 up to 11-point win for the Chiefs, and in the NFL and projections and things like that, that's pretty lopsided. Because we talked about the mismatches that were there for the Colts game, that it just felt like the Chiefs had advantages all over the board, and they should have had advantages all over the board. That was like a 6-point win, 6 or 7-point win in the projections. Chiefs and Raiders, it's 10, maybe 11. I think goes to show how lopsided this game could be on Monday night. But we'll see. It's Raiders, and it's Monday Night Football. It should be a lot of fun. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Take a look around the NFL and a couple of different things that are going on. And also Kendall Gammon coming up at noon. Mick Shaffer at 1 o'clock. We got some shot clock reviews. All that still to come on a Wednesday.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
It's hot out
okay.
here. My knee pits are sweating. I'd love a little breeze on them.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, thank you to Cynthia Frelund. We'll talk with Kendall Gammon coming up at noon. Mick Shaffer, 1 o'clock. Shot clock reviews as well. 913-912-4810. We spent the first hour talking about trying to figure out a way to quantify what the defense is doing, looking at like first quarters and the fourth quarter, how much it has mattered or not mattered. And then even looking back to 2020 when there were so many times the Chiefs had what seemed like an insurmountable lead. They had full control of the game. And then somehow in the fourth quarter, you got nervous. It was still a game. The other team had got back in it. Did Andy Reid take his foot off the gas? Did the Chiefs get a little complacent after they took the early lead because they were defending Super Bowl champions and they were running it back and they end up being, 14-1 when the starters played that year. But so many games, Tampa Bay, Miami, New Orleans, Carolina, were games where the Chiefs were controlling the game and all of a sudden late, it was a one-score game. 2 times where the Chiefs have taken early big leads in games, 14-0 against the Arizona Cardinals and 14-3 in the first quarter against the Bucs. It's first quarters only. They went on to have dominant performances and never felt like the other team was getting back in the game. So that's both offense and defense, but something to keep in mind and a little point for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks if there's something different with this Chiefs team that, looking back to 2020 when we were wondering, are they bored? Were they preparing the whole week like they would any other team? They would get up early and they would go, okay, we've done what we needed to do. Let's get to next week and do the same thing, and let's get to the playoffs. And, oh, wait, now it's a game and you got to go and find a way to have a 4-minute offense to snuff out any chance of this team coming back and winning against you and you dropping a game that you should have lost. So far, so good in that realm. And maybe we'll have another data point for the Raiders on Monday night, and maybe it'll be another one of those where they got up early and they continued to keep the gas pedal down. Cynthia Frelund said something about the Raiders that really gave me 2018 flashbacks. She talked about how good the defensive line is for the Raiders and getting in the backfield and said, but they don't back up the great D-line with corner and secondary play. And I thought, boy, if that ain't 2018 Chiefs, I don't know what is. You can get to the quarterback, you can sack him, but if you don't, good luck. You're not getting coverage sacks. You'd better get in there, get pressure, disrupt the passing game because the secondary is not going to be nearly good enough to withstand if you don't get back there, and you can't back that up. And so, yeah, there are clear advantages for the Chiefs over the Raiders, as there should be when a team is favored by a touchdown. One of those being her saying that the interior offensive line for the Raiders is a, quote, nightmare. And Chris Jones is also a nightmare. It's just different meanings for the same exact label. Both nightmares.
They're both nightmares for the Raiders.
There you go.
There you go. That's great.
Yeah.
That is exactly right. And the fact that the secondary is as bad as it is, and if they're not putting pressure on the quarterback, then essentially good luck from that standpoint. So we'll see what happens with the Raiders on Monday night. We do know that Tua Tagovailoa is not going to play this weekend. So concussion protocols and players going into concussion protocols, I didn't see the numbers this past weekend. I don't know if there was an uptick on players that are now in the protocol, if that's been the case the last couple of weeks or not. I'm not sure, the dynamics of Cameron Brate getting hit by his own teammate, being wobbly, looking like he wasn't all there, still playing, then at halftime being diagnosed with a concussion. It is not a perfect protocol. It's not perfect in how they go about assessing players and do they need to be out of the game? When do they return to play? Did anybody see him wobble on the field and look a little woozy? And then, of course, at halftime, Maybe they saw it. Maybe whoever was upstairs said, actually, you know what? I've just seen the replay of this with Cameron Brate. Get him out. Get him out of the game. We need to check on him for a concussion. And he was diagnosed with one. It's not a perfect system. And I don't think there is a quote-unquote perfect system. The issue with what happened with Tua is that I do think there starts to be an overcorrection. And maybe it's a good thing. Maybe the overcorrection is a positive, but an overcorrection where anything you see out there, you would immediately go, get the guy out of the game, he cannot play, wherein it might not actually be something that was neurological, but you're not taking a chance anymore with the reaction publicly from Tua.
It's very funny that that's something that you're worried about.
I'm not worried about
you're looking for.
Yeah, right.
Because until you've mentioned it a couple of times post Tua incident, and every time I've thought it's intriguing because absolutely 0% of me is in any way worried about the NFL's concussion protocol valuing the health of the player too much.
Too much, yeah, that's a good point.
I just don't. That is not my concern one bit. I do not think that there is. This is very dark. I'm going to the extreme here. Someone could die on the field. And I think by Sunday Night Football the next week, if the quarterback of that team, does a little head cobweb shake, but can go clear some protocols, that they're going to be back out there at the other side of halftime. I just think that's the machine that has been built, that we've all supported, that we're all watching on a not just weekly basis, but 4 times a week now. We've got a primetime slot of football, churning throughout our lives. I'm not moralizing on that. I just don't think that overcorrection is going to be an issue. Justin Reed, as a small example, went into concussion protocol testing this week and then came back a little while later.
After hitting Mike Evans on the pass over the middle.
Right. I would be very interested to see last week to next week for the rest of this season.
Yeah.
Is there a spike at any point? What I could see is there being a spike of guys who get pulled into the protocol testing, and then hopefully the actual testing itself is consistent. So maybe Justin Reed wouldn't have gotten pulled from that game in 2019, but did on Sunday and then gets able to go back out there. Maybe that's what it is. Here's the part of it that's really interesting to me. The NFL has found its scapegoat for this one.
Oh, yeah.
It is the independent neurologist. That person has been fired, and then on the investigation, per the NFL, you don't always want to take the state media's word at this, but per the NFL, that doctor did not follow protocols and was hostile during the interview process. A weird detail, but one that got out there because someone from the NFL wanted that to be out there.
You want a piece of me? Bring it. Come on. Only thing between us is space and opportunity.
Yeah, he's concussed. You want to be next? I'll concuss you right now, Roger Goodell. I don't know. It's very weird.
Why don't you get in my protocol, punk?
It's very, very weird for that detail to get out because, again, that's not coming from the doctor. That is very clearly coming from the NFL. And then the NFL looks better because they say, hey, everybody, false alarm. Our process is fine. We just had one bad apple. We just had one doctor who went rogue, and this is totally not going to be an issue for 31 other teams. The Dolphins just got the doctor from The Simpsons, and we really look. I mean, we should have seen that coming, but ultimately, one bad doctor. And if you think that the Miami Dolphins are the only team with an independent neurological expert on their sidelines who might be inclined to work on behalf of the team as opposed to in behalf of the player, I have some wonderful property in Miami, actually, that I'd like to sell you that'll be underwater in a few years. But right now probably looks pretty good. Because that is the point for me of what this investigation will eventually show. Will there be an attempt to find something systemic throughout the NFL, or will the NFL be able to stand on its own 2 feet and say that was an anomaly? That is not how this works in other places. We have made a mistake. We are atoning for our mistake. That guy's been fired, and we're bringing somebody new in the building. But I find it pretty hard to believe that if you look at how sort of concussion culture in the NFL, we haven't played the Alex Smith sound yet, but when he's talked about it on ESPN Daily this week, the story of him just trying to blink his way through what was ultimately a concussion in San Francisco, trying to play through that because that's what football players do. I bet I don't know this is speculative, maybe reckless. Tua brain bashing the inside of his skull was probably trying to get that doctor to speed this up so he could get back out there. Travis Kelce talked about it right before the real serious Tua concussion happened.
Yep.
That's not surprising to me. What I am now wondering is really about one word in that independent neurological expert, the independent neurologist. It's not the neurologist part. It's the independent part. They're independent so they can advocate on behalf of whatever is medically needed in that moment. Not from the team, not from the player, ideally kind of for both. But I think this right now could very well be one more Jenga block moving out of the NFL's concussion protocol that they've built up. If this ends up being seen as a systemic weakness, then I do think it could be the start of something bigger.
Well, and with the investigation, and we'll see what the NFLPA ends up finding.
And nobody wants to find a systemic issue.
Yeah. Right,
no
absolutely.
one's going to want to find that, but if there is one, they should.
No, I agree. But also when we talk about the doctor or doctors, there's a reason people will go, well, I want to go get a second opinion. Right. Because different, incredibly brilliant doctors who have done this their entire adult life can look at something and have, maybe it's only a slightly different opinion on what's going on there.
Sure.
And so when you've got 32 different independent neurologists that are out there on the sideline, one person can interpret what they're seeing or hearing or observing different than another one. And they might have viewed this independent neurologist not as systemic as you were a little too lenient on this. You know, there's a black and white. There might be some gray area, and he might have been somebody that lived more in the gray area and may have been somebody that gave benefit of the doubt more times than not on the player's side.
Sure.
Whereas there might have been other neurologists that are like, nope, this is how it's done. This is how I'm going to play it. This is how I'm going to read it. And this guy's out of the game. And they might have said, this guy's a little bit lax. He's gone. We don't have room for gray area. It is black and white. There is no interpretation other than what the protocols and the guidelines are.
There has to be some of that interpretation built in, because otherwise there's no point of having actual independent neurologists on the sidelines, because otherwise you would have the concussion protocol testing itself would be thumb up, thumb down, green, red, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You would have a more binary process. However, if there's that much room for interpretation, it's also time to revisit that process.
Agreed.
To say, hey, hold on a second now. And also, this is where it becomes a cultural thing that is not going to be as much as smoking guns of a bunch of doctors conspiring to help the teams or whatever. But from a cultural perspective, how do you twist from the culture of you need to be back out there failing your cognitive tests in advance so you have a lower score to hit so you can get back out there when you're concussed, versus that Mike Tomlin audio that we played after the Tua hit of saying, hey, if you were my son, I wouldn't even be having this conversation with you. And I don't know how you bridge that gap, because I think a lot of NFL head coaches truly do care about the health of their players. I also think that they really truly do care about winning games and staying employed. And so there is something fundamentally incongruous about professional football fighting to win the NFL and healthy brains. There is not a way for all of those to exist in total harmony. The best thing the NFL can do is keep iterating that process to try to get it to provide not no brain damage and not no concussions. We gave up on that whenever we decided we liked this sport, or whenever we learned about it and then kept watching this sport, which, hey, I'm right there with you. I love this sport. But there has to be some cultural pivot, a pretty deep dig through the independent neurologists and the concussion protocols itself. Maybe somewhere around there, you also get a little bit of a cultural advancement, although none of that is guaranteed. Because the NFL, I think, right now is in a place where they would love to play pin the tail on the bad neuro and say that was on him, everything's fine, nothing to see here.
And I understand why the immediate reaction and cynicism would be he's just simply the scapegoat. They're firing this guy, and whichever neurologist would have been there would have handled it the same way, but the NFL's got to give somebody...
Oh, that's not what I'm saying. No,
I'm not saying that's what you're saying.
I'm saying that he very well could have been making all these mistakes. The NFL would love to not look any closer.
Agreed. No, I totally...
Tim Donaghy, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm saying is I understand a natural reaction of cynicism when he's fired of people to go, well, he's just the scapegoat. Like he did something that any other independent neurologist would have done, but it doesn't matter. He could have played it by the book. He was going to be fired regardless. I understand that cynicism being out there because it certainly you can interpret that that's what it looks like. But I don't know, like, is there gray area? Maybe there's not gray area, and maybe this doctor interpreted a little bit more and created more gray area, and he's actually not a scapegoat. He's fired because they actually looked a little closer in the different things that he's done, and they said, well, it's not good enough. We aren't in a position to where we can be even less than perfect with what we're dealing with now. You're fired. We can find somebody else that can do your job, that we want to be at a certain level. We can't have you doing these things, so therefore you're fired. I don't eliminate the possibility at all that he's just a scapegoat. I also don't eliminate the possibility that 32 different neurologists could have some sort of small interpretational difference in what they're seeing and hearing and observing, and there's a little more gray area and liberty that this doctor took that the NFL is just not okay with, and the NFLPA is not okay with. Therefore, he needed to be fired, and maybe it took this circumstance to find out that maybe he has been somebody that's allowed the return to play to happen more often than not when other neurologists have not done that, and the NFL wants to err on the side of you don't return to play. But we'll see what happens moving forward. On the other side of the break, I do want to hear Alex Smith, about a minute clip of him talking about his concussions with the 49ers and the Chiefs as well. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I'm just being a smartass.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I will talk with Kendall Gammon coming up at noon. Mick Shaffer at 1 o'clock. Some college football to get into as well. Big game coming up on Saturday.
A real picture for you real quick, Jason.
Yeah, please.
I know it's a
That's amazing.
I know it's a visual joke in an audio medium, but here's
that is great.
Davis Mills' official headshot.
That is great. I was looking at the Davis Mills press conference, and I said, does Davis Mills look like somebody did a Photoshop of his neck and just stretched it out? And then you had said that there are pictures of people actually doing that.
There's a whole Photoshop tool for it. This is...
Which, yeah, Davis Mills, though,
this one.
Just naturally... He naturally looks like somebody has done that.
It's got to...
That's unnatural because, that is Photoshopped.
It's got to... Here's the thing. It's got to make him at least a tiny bit better at quarterback.
To have that neck?
Because his eye level is just a little bit higher than it would be if he had a normal average length neck.
Okay.
I was going to say sorry for keeping you from getting to that Alex Smith audio, but
it's all right.
We've had a few days, and this segment wasn't very long anyway. And we got to talk about Davis Mills' neck, and I feel like, honestly, we've made the right choice here.
Here's his regular neck. But doesn't that look like it's already been Photoshopped?
It's
just a little bit?
Just a little bit. He just got a very long neck. I don't know. You know that giraffes have the same number of vertebrae as humans? Every time I relearn that, it blows my mind.
I do now.
They're just really big.
I mean, that's Harvey Williams level.
The neck of a giraffe can be 8 feet long, weigh up to 600 pounds, but they only have 7 neck vertebrae. The same number of neck bones that humans have.
You think that Lovie Smith staying with Davis Mills is really sticking his neck out for him?
The AFC South, they're all neck and neck.
The program was... You're in the
WHB Kansas City.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson
All right, welcome back. Anderson in the Zone. It's ESPN. It's Sports Radio 810 WHB.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you as we continue to head up until 2 o'clock on this Wednesday. Typically, we talk to Kendall Gammon on a Friday, but Chiefs coordinators will be going on Friday. Everything moved back a day with Monday Night Football coming up this week. So let's talk to Kendall Gammon right now. Freeman Health System centered around you. Freeman Health System, your local hospital, joining your circle of trust, presenting Kendall Gammon, along with Crown Automotive in Lawrence. They're your Lawrence new and certified pre-owned Toyota and Volkswagen dealership near Kansas City, Olathe, and Topeka. Experience the Crown difference at crownautomotive.com. Kendall Gammon here with us in the zone. Kendall, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
Hey, you know what? Just trying to get over the fact that I got bumped by the coordinators. It's tough, but I'm gonna get past it.
You know what? It gives you time to listen to Dave Tobe. See what he has to say about special teams this week, you know? Bounce back week for the special teams. Matthew Wright was perfect. The
turnover.
The turnover. The punt by Tommy. It's always nice when the only time you have to snap the ball, Kendall, is on extra points and field goals.
It is really, really nice. Trust me. And yeah, you're right. And Tobe had to enjoy it this week will enjoy it this week much more than last.
Yep.
But just in general, all three phases, we talked about it last week, Jason, and, trying to win at least two phases, and the Chiefs definitely won all three.
So what did you make of just the response from the Chiefs, from the way they played against the Colts, what they had talked about, and then how they went out and played?
I think you and I talked about it a little bit last week, was kind of thought this might be the response. And it was really centered on just that little 6-second reply that Mahomes had to, I think, Barrett's comment about the offensive line. And I think they were just focused and ready to go. And, that's a mark of a true leader, I think, in Andy Reid, to be able to get your guys refocused when you lost a game that you shouldn't have. And they didn't just come out and kind of perform. They were hitting on all cylinders.
Is there that extra, element of that focus during the week in preparation, whether it's a big game or a, middle of the pack game, or certainly a game coming off a loss? Is there that extra little bit of focus and being more, fine in your assessment and studying and game planning?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair statement, and it happens during the week. Guys are talking each and every practice before they go out, breaking it down afterwards and talking a little bit about things. My guess would be, some of the leaders in the huddle said, hey, listen, let's focus in on this. Let's get it going. Maybe even throwing in a little bit of what such and such said about you. Let's prove them wrong, or things like that. I've been through all of that, and it just heightens a little bit. And again, this is conjecture, but we don't know because we weren't there. But I've been through it before, and it's things like that do happen.
Andy Reid, Clyde Edwards-Helaire said that, I believe it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire that said that Andy Reid on Saturday night in their meeting and things that happened in the team hotel before the game and talking with the players, and said that what you've done all week long, the focus, the game plan, the preparation, you're going to play well tomorrow because of what you've done this week. Have you had a game where that feel going into it, like you just know that all week long there's been a focus in practice, you haven't had a bad practice, everybody's been on point, that the preparation is leading into a bigger game, and even before you go out there, there's sort of a belief that you're going to play really well because of that? Andy certainly had that belief, and I think the players showed that on the field. Have you had that, before, where all week long and before a game you're going, I know we're going to play well just because of what this week has felt like?
Yes, I have. I mean, I don't remember specifically what game it was. I played in 234 of them. But I can remember certainly in the playoffs when I was back with the Steelers. To me, during the week, in games like that, in the big games, you're trying to do something, you kind of quiet down a little bit, but when things are said, it's said with a little more emphasis. So it quiets down and gets louder at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it is. Things like that happen, and that's just the ebb and the flow of emotions with human beings in general.
Visiting with Kendall Gammon. He's presented by Freeman Health System and Crown Automotive in Lawrence. One of the things that Andy Reid seems to do is at the beginning of every week he has kind of a theme, kind of a mission for the team that week, and whatever he feels like is the best way to reach that team. Like, he's not going to be the rah-rah. He's not going to be before the game giving the win one for the Gipper speech, right? It's not going to be one of those things. But at the beginning of the week, it's here's what we have to accomplish. And apparently last week it was just a challenge to the entire team of here's what you have to do, and this is what's expected, and a challenge to the offensive line. Does it, you've played with a number of different types of coaches and how they go about approaching things. Does it, does it hit harder? Does it mean more maybe from a guy that isn't as rah-rah, in your face, yelling, intense, when he does have I'm challenging you guys. This is a week where you need to go and prove it. Does it mean more maybe when a guy like Andy Reid maybe has to be a little more demonstrative in his challenge to his players when typically he might seem like he's subdued or low-key or even keel?
I believe it does mean more for a lot of different reasons. Number one, Andy Reid is authentic. What you see is what you get. And from a player's perspective, you love that. And the fact is, he's not doing, I've had some coaches where they come up with these things that are just a little bit silly every once in a while. And so you start to doubt some things or wonder what the heck's going on. And nothing, in my estimation, in my, experience with Andy Reid, is contrived. It's all real. It's all authentic. And he says it with a passion and with a vigor that, as a player, you can respect and love. And I compare it a little bit to, go back to my years with Pittsburgh and Coach Cowher. He was very much that way. And, of course, he had played the game for a few years with Cleveland and, of course, coached under Monty Schottenheimer. And he just had a way of talking to the players beforehand. I mean, each day it might only be a minute and a half, at most. But it had substance to what he was talking about. And it was like, this is what we're trying to accomplish today, and this is what we're trying to accomplish each week. And I have to believe that Andy kind of mimics that a little bit.
Did you have a coach that did one of the goofy, like, let's bury the football, or here's the game film, we're gonna put it in this bucket and we're gonna light it on fire so all of that is behind us? Have you had a coach that did kind of like one of those corny, we're moving on now, as opposed to just going, yeah, we got our ass kicked, it's a challenge, go out there and respond?
I have, and I won't say the names, but sometimes it just doesn't play well with the guys because of how it's done. That being said, I can remember with the Steelers, again, going back to Cowher, when I forget who we played, but we should have won, and we might have been undefeated at the time. And, we just laid a frickin' egg. And we came in, he's like, not going to watch it. That was awful. You know it. I know it. We're just moving on. We're going to get ready for this week. I did that very little, so the fact that he did it the one time, to me, maybe that was gimmicky, but it worked, and I liked it because the fact is he knew everybody was embarrassed about what they did and how they played because we got beaten all three phases. And again, that goes back to the history of the years before him and the relationship that he's built with the players and the trust that he's built with the players as well.
So, and Kendall Gammon's our guest, and that's interesting with, like, watching the film and going back and assessing, like, as a team, if there's an element of, like, Bill Cowher doing that. Is it for effect, or is it one of those to where, okay, I'm watching the film and I'm seeing what's going on in the mistakes that are made. These are mistakes that the players know they're making, and they're better than that. It's not necessarily a teaching moment of, okay, here's what you didn't see. Here's what happened on this one, and this is what you're going to have to do different in the future. The difference of, hey, as a wide receiver, you didn't read this safety there, and that's why this happened, as opposed to, hey, let's watch film of you dropping the pass. Next time, catch it. Well, I know to catch it, so what's the point of watching that? So it's interesting when it may be to where, and maybe even with the Chiefs and Colts or Steelers and whoever you guys played the week before, that there can be some benefits of going through the film. But if what you're assessing and seeing is things on film that the guys can do and are better than, and it just was a bad game, how much value is there to go through and go, hey, you took a false step there? Yeah, I know. I know that. I knew it when it happened, and I didn't want to, take a false step again, as opposed to, why didn't you see this twist coming? We talked about that. This is what you're going to have to do this week.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. And probably in that case that I talked about, we probably could have got some good from the film, but there's other things where it was just obvious. And I think to a degree, it was more so to just change it up and say, listen, no, I get it. We all know we played bad. It didn't go well. I didn't coach well. We're gonna get rid of this. The fact is, still during the week, you probably still see some of the film because the coaches can cut things up so easy that you can look at a few plays still and see them and say, okay, this is what we did. We've got to get away from this and whatnot. So you can still do some learning throughout the week. And sometimes it's a mental cue, it's a mental challenge just to get the guys out of the mindset of man, that was just not a good game.
Kendall Gammon is our guest. He's presented by Freeman Health System and Crown Automotive in Lawrence. The game against the Bucks. What was a takeaway or something that you saw in that game that maybe stood out that impressed you? I mean, there could have been like 15 different things the way that they played, but anything that you watch in that game and you looked at it and said, okay, that was a difference, or that is a difference moving forward.
Yeah, I think we could talk about it the rest of your show, but the running game, both in how they ran the ball offensively and how they stopped the run defensively. Although when you only have 6 attempts, that's kind of interesting. But the fact is, you only gave up 3 yards, so come on, pretty good. But the biggest thing I think offensively was the running game. If the Chiefs could continue to have a running game, not even that good, but just a semblance of that, the NFL is going to go on watch, because that gets ugly for people and how you deal with things. Because Mahomes, just when you think he showed you everything he can do, he comes up with the dipsy-do. And it's just crazy. And it's special. And I forget who said it, that we need to remember, maybe it was Big Red that said, that we need to understand what we're watching and how special this is. And I think Chiefs Kingdom does know it. But this dude is special. And then having been around him as much as I've been around him, he's special off the field as well in terms of how he holds himself. I still have not heard him answer a question wrong in his career. And he just gets everything right, and he's authentic and he's real. Yeah,
he was created in the lab. I'm convinced of it. That
yes.
He's a little robotic.
Weird science.
Yes, exactly. Somebody went in there and said, "Okay, how do we build a quarterback?" Oh, I know. Yep. Let's do all of these things, and then we'll come out with this monster, and it's Patrick Mahomes. Is what it ends up being. Kendall Gammon is our guest here on Sports Radio 810 WHB in the Zone as we talk about this Chiefs team. They knock off the Buccaneers and they get ready for the Raiders coming up on Monday night. What is Raider Week? When you hear Raider Week as a former player, it doesn't have the same juice to it, I guess, as fans or just in general in the public, because the rivalry hasn't been much of a rivalry with the Chiefs dominating that. And they haven't been much of a threat in the West. But as someone who played in these games, what does Raider Week mean to you when you hear that?
You know, I hate to let you down. It doesn't mean much to me. My first year with the Chiefs was when Gunther was here. And so you had Raider Week signs up, and he was going after some things. And he may or may not have been one of the guys who had some gimmicks at times. Okay. I don't know. But a good dude. But after that, when Vermeil came in, and even Herm my last year, it was important. You talked about some of the history, but it wasn't to the degree that it was prior. It was more the Broncos back then, and that was more the rival. Because I remember actually in my first year here when we went up to Denver and beat the Broncos, that was a bigger deal. But Raider Week in general and games with the Raiders so often come down to, who scores last, and the last person with the ball and things like that. Even when it shouldn't, when you look at the records, it often has. So it is different, and there's a lot of history there. But if I'm being honest, it's not inside the locker room, at least during my career, and I think it continued, anything more than just it is an important game because it's a division game. Yeah. And it is a very important game because of that alone.
Yeah, and I guess it's just a different way of how coaches approach it, because Marty, it was everything. Like 2 weeks out of the year, it was Raider Week. Tim Grunhard's talked about it. Signs everywhere, Raider Week, and probably why the little bit of Gunther was a carryover of Marty. And this is Raider Week. This means more than just simply an everyday game. And I'm not sure that whether it's Dick Vermeil or Herm or Romeo or Haley or Andy Reid, if they approach it the same way as this is specifically more important, other than it's one of 6 games in the division that we need to go out and win.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. And those division games are the most important, no doubt about it. So it does have that significance. But that's about it. Now, I mean, they don't play in that dump in Oakland anymore. It's in Vegas. But I loved going to Oakland, even though it was just such a cesspool, but there was just something kind of special about it and fun about it, and the black hole and everything about it. And not many people know I would give a ball away to a kid home and away before every game just to make a memory. And man, when I approached the black hole with a ball and would give it to a kid, even with a Raiders jersey on, they would just be losing their mind when I was walking there, inventing cuss words. Then I'd give a ball to a kid with a Raiders jersey on, and they just look at me and shut up. So it was kind of fun.
That's interesting. Letting you have it.
Jason, literally, I was doing that. I gave it to the kid, said, I hope you have a good day. Raider fan was cussing like a sailor. He didn't realize the kid was there. I did all this. He shut up. He just looked at me. He goes, 83, just leave. He goes, I can't boo you now. And it was just kind of funny.
That's great. By the way, the kid was his son. He knew he was there the whole time. It's just that's how you raise them as Raiders. Come on.
That's no joke.
And the great picture of Brandon Flowers in the end zone with the Raiders fans all telling him he's number one.
He is number one, and that's the support you get from that. I will say once I got to a game late when I was broadcasting, and there was traffic, and an Uber. He goes, we're not going to get in here and whatever. So he just dropped me off. I literally walked through the Raiders parking lot with my Chiefs garb on to broadcast the game. And that was one of the worst ideas I've ever had in my life. It was less than optimal.
Yeah. I think it might have been better for you just to go shirtless.
Exactly right. Well, you know what? I don't know. Nobody wants to see that, Chase. Nobody wants to see that.
Just on your way there, just take the shirt off. No, just try to blend in. I'm one of you. And then, put the shirt on once you get past, once you get into enemy territory.
Yeah, we're hitting the hard-hitting topics right now, aren't we?
You know what? That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Kendall Gammon is our guest. What do you think happens on Monday night? A little Monday Night Football and there at Arrowhead Stadium, which is always special. And then you add in the Raiders, obviously, and a division game, it makes it even, more of a hyped-up atmosphere. But what do you think happens in the game on Monday night?
Yeah, as a player, you do know when you have the national games on, it's just you. And the Raiders are certainly better than their record, but I don't think they can. I think the Chiefs, if they continue to play even a semblance of what they did this last week, I think they win by 10 to 12 at least, and that's probably with a trash touchdown at the end by the Raiders. But the big thing is, like we talked about in Indianapolis, is you can't, especially when they're coming into your own place, you got to get on them. You got to use the crowd to your advantage in that 142.2 decibel level, and you got to not give hope to the opposing team that knows in their minds they know the Chiefs are better than them, but they also know that if they play well enough and catch them on the wrong day that they could get it. So you've got to erase that hope as soon as possible and get the crowd into it quickly. They'll be into it, but keep them into it, and don't let the Raiders do something that quiets the crowd and allows them to operate easily on offense. And then the other thing is, I think, just our tackles, that pass rush on the edge of Oakland, of Vegas, is no joke.
Yeah. How long do you think it'll take before you never say Oakland again?
You know what?
Never.
You got to keep people honest a little bit, but probably never.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of people still say San Diego with the Chargers. I mean, it takes a while to, and the Raiders have moved a lot. So it was, Oakland and L.A. and Oakland and now Vegas. I mean, Chargers are just in L.A. But it's still easy to say San Diego with that. Kendall Gammon is our guest. Last one for you, Kendall. Top 10 matchup down in Pittsburgh this weekend.
Yeah.
Number 10 Northwest, number 7 Pitt State, undefeated Pitt State, one-loss Bearcat team. What do you think of this matchup and the anticipation of Pitt State letting everybody know, be in your seats by 1:40. Game starts at 2, but we want everybody there 20 minutes beforehand for, some special stuff leading into the kickoff.
Yeah, lots of stadiums sometimes the fans get in late, and they're just trying to get them in there as early as possible to have a lot of fun and make it as, quite honestly, as intimidating environment as they can make it. That being said, the Bearcats, they've played in big games, and they're the conference champs. Until Pittsburgh can knock them off, they deserve that respect. No different than the AFC West. So it's going to be a great game. I know as of 2 days ago, there were only 400 tickets left, so you'll have a sellout standing room only crowd, which will be about 12,500, and it will be a bonkers environment. It'll be great for both teams.
Yeah.
It'll be tougher for Northwest, but this is what MIAA football is, and I'm glad Northwest won last week. I wanted no part of them coming off of 2 losses. Because that's a good team, and Pittsburgh played well against Southern, took care of business. So it's going to be a fun one, there's no doubt.
Yep, looking forward to that one. Kendall Gammon, presented by Freeman Health System and Crown Automotive in Lawrence. Kendall, you're the man. Really appreciate the time, sir. Thank you for moving your schedule around for us this week. And, as much as I can objectively on the air, say good luck to your Gorillas this weekend.
I got you. I appreciate it very much. Take care, Jason.
Absolutely. There's Kendall Gammon joining us. Again, he's presented by Freeman Health System, centered around you. Freeman Health System, your local hospital, joining your circle of trust, and also Crown Automotive in Lawrence. They are your Lawrence new and certified pre-owned Toyota and Volkswagen dealership near Kansas City, Olathe, and Topeka. Experience the Crown difference at crownautomotive.com. See, that's my objective broadcasting. Good luck to Pitt State this weekend. And then when we go our separate ways, then it's, I hope, 0 luck for Pitt State, and the luck is on the Bearcat side.
Monday's show is just going to be Beards just trying to work in the word gorillas as much as possible. That's what you have to prepare for, I think.
Well, I'm pretty sure last Monday was a lot of guerrilla warfare from you guys.
That's right. Should have mentioned this. They are spelled different.
What?
I know.
No.
Don't feel bad about it. I didn't learn that until,
what?
At least last week.
I thought it was named after the animal.
Planet of the Apes has a lot of guerrilla warfare, but that's different too.
Like warfare of like,
no, wait, hold on.
Hey, this is
that's
how,
not what it means?
This is how the gorillas would fight you.
Well, no, it's because so it's, what's the word for whenever one word sounds like it's spelled different ways and sounds the same?
A gorilla?
It's a guerrilla word.
My interpretation here is that guerrilla warfare is spelled differently for the sake of, the written word, but it is when guerrillas are armed with weapons fighting a war.
Okay. Like Planet of the Apes.
It's just spelled differently just for like classification purposes, just for in the written word.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure all guerrilla warfare is sort of Rise of the Dawn of the start of the beginning of the Planet of the Apes, which I think is what the most recent one was called.
Yeah, so guerrilla warfare is led by Caesar. Did Caesar invent guerrilla warfare? That's what I want to know.
Little Caesars?
Not that Caesar, not the other Caesar, but Caesar from the Apes.
Shoot ya. That's what they say. That's what Little Caesar says on the front lines with his gorillas.
It's Big Caesar. Not Little Caesar to you. It's Big Caesar. So now that we got to the bottom of that, what guerrilla warfare means.
All this gorilla and Caesar talk, we're just out here dressing this segment up.
Who wins, a Bearcat or a gorilla?
Oh, a gorilla.
Don't answer that.
Oh, a gorilla.
Don't answer that.
Oh, look, not much beats a gorilla.
What if it's a Bearcat armed to get ready for guerrilla warfare that doesn't realize the gorilla is just there for hand-to-hand combat?
All right, what's it armed with?
Massive amount of weapons.
But does it have opposable thumbs? It's
yes.
If you. Oh, well then now we're cooking.
Yeah, the Bearcat has opposable thumbs.
So now it's a Bearcat with opposable thumbs and weapons.
I've seen the Bearcat mascot. It's got thumbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you stood next to a gorilla recently?
You know what? Not recently.
Well, but the point of this being
not recently.
I know that sounded like a beginning of a bit.
Define recent.
Renee and I went down to the Omaha Zoo for her. I hate it when people get that wrong, so that was me fact checking myself. People go, "Oh, you're gonna drive up the Wichita?" No, you're not. You're not driving up the Wichita. You're driving down the Wichita. It's southern.
We were gonna go up to Florida.
No, it's not how that works. But we went to Omaha Zoo, and at one point where there was a gorilla just like, right up against the glass. They have like a little kind of dome little thing you kind of step into. And it had been a while since I had been that near to a gorilla. And I would like to exclusively report here, gorillas big. Big gorillas.
Huh.
Hey, you know what I would not want to do with that gorilla? Fight it in guerrilla warfare or otherwise.
What if you had a weapon?
There are not enough. You could give me a rocket launcher and 100 yards, and I would not feel good about my chances at any given point. You make one mistake, and all of a sudden, you are you're gorilla food. You're just a human banana. Just unpeel you right there.
Toy.
Just
toss you around.
A rag doll, a chew toy. Don't fight gorillas.
Doesn't have a toy. Now he does. We'll take a time out. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling.
It has so much more great guerrilla warfare content.
Yeah, well, wait for it because we don't want to give it all away.
On the other side of the break.
Keep them wanting more.
We'll take a baseball bat to these jokes and just beat them to death.
Always. I mean, you guys are beating a dead gorilla here, okay? Stop with that, okay?
There's no such thing as a dead gorilla.
I hope one happens on Saturday,
Whoa!
Metaphorically.
Whoa!
Figuratively.
Jason, hold on. I'm getting a report right now. Yep. Jason shot Harambe. That was you?
No.
You were the one that killed Harambe.
No, but I was the child that did slide down into the
You indirectly caused the death of Harambe.
But I want to get out.
I want to go see the gorilla.
I have made a big mistake being down here. All right, enough of that. So we'll take a time out on the other side. A little different college football, even outside of the local teams as well. This was anticipated as the big weekend in college football this year. Because back in January, I think, is when people were talking about KU and TCU. The College Game Day should be there. It was about that and also an argument of what's a better game, that game or A&M Alabama. We'll do that next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I do want to weigh in on this, too, as all joking aside. Those were jokes. Didn't result in laughs, but it was an attempt.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, thank you to Kendall Gammon. We'll talk with Mick Shaffer coming up at 1 o'clock. He's brought to you by Kona Big Wave. Take a little break in single task tonight with the Big Wave Golden Ale from Kona Brewing Company. We'll talk with Mick at 1 o'clock, some shot clock reviews, and put a bow on the ZOUs.
Nothing is going to change this afternoon?
No, not once Scott. Well, I mean, darn it, I didn't mean to give it away.
Look, anything could have happened.
Not since Scott Barlow got save.
Excuse me,
21.
Scoot Barlow.
Not since Scoot Barlow got save 21.
I legitimately don't know how many he ended with.
He's at 24 now.
Okay, so you got a little breathing room,
Yes.
but not as much as you would have thought whenever he was at about 18, 19.
Yeah,
I feel like right then he was ripping through them.
He was at 19 for a while, then he was at 20 for a while. It was like Aaron Judge when he got to 60.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, is he going to get to 61? Can you just release Roger Maris Jr. from being a hostage that he has to follow every single game for Aaron Judge? Just let him go home, man.
Roger Maris Jr. loved this. He wants to be on TV talking about how the real home run records, blah blah blah. I feel like this has been a bigger week for Roger Maris Jr. than it's been for Aaron Judge. There's the take.
I think Roger Maris Jr. probably liked it for a little bit of time, but it's almost like a vacation. Like you're in the hotel, you're having fun, 4 or 5 days go by, and you're like, okay, I've kind of done everything. I'm still enjoying it, but I am getting ready to head back home. I'm kind of getting to that point. And then the days go by, you're like, all right, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go back home. I appreciate them putting me up in hotels and giving me tickets to these games, and I get to sit next to Aaron Judge's mother. But it's been a week. I got a life that I need to go back to, that maybe I could go home. Aaron, can you help a brother out? Can I just go home? He might have been enjoying it for a while, but I think at some point you're like, hit the damn thing, man. Just hit the home run. But it took him so long between 60 and 61, and then 27 plate appearances between 61 and 62. That's what it felt like with Scott Barlow from save 19 to 21 to 21.
Also here, this is, I guess, swoosh, breaking news. Jonathan Taylor out tomorrow night. Seemed like he was trending towards potentially playing. Just a little PSA there for your fantasy and your betting and all of that. Thank you, Beards. Colts have ruled out Jonathan Taylor.
And they're playing the Broncos, right?
Indeed,
tomorrow night.
That is correct.
Who have also ruled out Javonte Williams.
Yes. He's out for the season. Randy Gregory's out for, it could be, I think the range I saw was, 2 to 8 weeks?
Yeah.
One of those very wide range of outcomes. And then also here, I am ruling out any chance of Russell Wilson playing good football tomorrow night. That's actually per me. Please do credit at JB Brisco on Twitter with the report on that one.
But with the injury report on Monday, he was Mr. Limited in practice.
That's right.
Mr. Limited.
And look, you practice like you play, so I will say that Russell Wilson will also be limited against the Colts on Thursday.
Broncos fans, let's ride around the field because I don't want to walk right now because I am limited. Let's ride.
Broncos country. It's really important.
Broncos country.
Country.
Let's ride
I don't know
on my
why,
rascal. Broncos country. Let's ride the scooter.
On the back of this golf cart.
Broncos country. Let's ride the front seat of the cart.
One of the years I went to training camp as a kid, I really distinctly remember watching Charlie Weiss ride around
the most amazing thing
scooter.
ever. On the rascal?
Yeah.
Dude, it was
he owned that place, man.
It's one of the greatest sights I've seen at training camp, and I got to cover, so I was there, and he would be, so there's 2 fields. In case people did not see this beautiful visual, there's 2 fields. He'd be in the middle of the 2 fields. They'd be running offensive plays. He'd be on the sideline. They'd run a play, and he would right out to midfield where they're in the huddle. Turn around and ride back to the sideline. They'd run the play. Right out to mid and just back and forth, and it was just an amazing sight to see of him just writing this rascal everywhere. And I got so much enjoyment out of just that, because what other enjoyment are you going to get out of with
the Charlie Weiss offense? That was the high point.
He was there to fix the quarterback being Matt Castle. There was no fixing. So I'm here to fix the quarterback. Okay, thanks, Charlie Rice. Charlie Rice is Charlie Rice. It's Charlie Rice. That little rascal.
Pretty big rascal, actually.
It was a
good-sized rascal.
Yeah, but it was great size entertainment to watch that take place. Because I was like, why don't you just stay out near that? Couldn't you just ride like 10 yards the other way, and then they could walk to you almost?
You don't have to be
just
in
do
football.
The huddle.
Yeah, you don't have to be in football shape to have a football mind. You know, I don't want to correlate all those things. You don't have to be Dan Campbell out there doing up downs. But that can't have been the most efficient way of making training camp happen, right?
Couldn't you just huddle up 10 yards further back near Charlie Rice, and then you have to run a little bit further to the line of scrimmage than you would if it was just your regular huddle?
Is it legal to do, like, could you put a speaker in a training camp helmet? Are you allowed to do that? Is that a violation?
Why wouldn't you be
It's
allowed to do that?
not going to work anyway. I don't know. It just feels like it could be a violation for some reason.
I think you could do that.
I don't know. Look, man, we're on top of the real story of the day. I'm starting to wonder about these Charlie Weiss Chiefs. I'm really starting to wonder if that was a good hire or not.
I don't think they're good enough. I don't think they're good enough.
I'll tell you what, I do think that if Charlie Weiss ever wants to go back to college, he'd be a great head coach someday.
Yeah, somebody should hire him. Like,
knows the area already.
Again,
I mean, probably could own Kansas City in the recruiting game.
That's the main thing. You would
Charlie Weiss,
who wants Harbaugh. So you would have lost a bet. You would have lost a lot of money if you said College Game Day was going to be in Lawrence this weekend as opposed to being in the A&M Alabama realm. But that's the case. A&M and Alabama, the big 7 o'clock kickoff Saturday night. College Game Day is in Lawrence, where it's an 11 o'clock kickoff in the morning. Let's give you a refresher as to why this game was built up to be this massive showdown between the two, besides the fact that A&M won a year ago. This is Nick Saban from May 18th on recruiting in the country and where it's heading in college football.
We were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. All right, we didn't buy one player. All right.
It's still so egregious.
I
thought the heat of that might wear off over the months. It is not.
Saban, when he gets sort of excited or charged up a little bit or frustrated or annoyed, he more often goes to the ites. Like every end of a sentence is, all right, we finished second. They were first, all right? And they paid for every one of their players, all right? We didn't pay for one, all right?
Didn't pay for a single player.
Because it means more.
All right. Jimbo then had his response to the May 18th comments with the impromptu press conference that was called that morning on May 19th, and this is what was said.
It's amazing. Some people think they're God. Go dig into how God did his deal. You may find out about a guy that a lot of things you don't want to know. We built him up to be the czar of football. Go dig into his past, or anybody that's ever coached with him. You can find out anything you want to find out, what he does and how he does it. And it's despicable. It really is. And it's a shame we have to sit up here and have this conversation about things we do. And it's personal to us? Yes, it is. It's personal to A&M. It's personal to our players. It's personal to our coaches and everybody involved. And I know the guy. Know him really well. It's amazing that we're allowed to do those things. It's really despicable. And I hate it. For our players who are coming here, who did things the right way, have done things the right way, and will continue to do things the right way, I apologize to you that people insult you publicly the way they're doing it. And our fans, I apologize to you guys for people saying those things about Texas A&M. But promise you this, there are no violations. There are nothing wrong. It's the second time we've had to do this with grown men who don't get their way and want to pout, throw a fit, and act up. Just go ask all the people who work for him. You'll know exactly what he's about. I always said this. My dad always told me this. When people show you who they are, believe them. He's showing you who he is.
Go see how God did his deal. Some people think they're God.
Hey, go look into God.
Go see how God did his deal. Well, I think they wrote a few books about it. So, I mean, there's been a lot of studying of that. But, you mean Saban he thinks he's God. So that got everything charged up for this week.
Still electric in retrospect. Just
October
great
8th. October 8th. October 8th. Jimbo had his press conference yesterday. Here is the exchange with the reporter and Jimbo about the relationship and the game this weekend.
So in May, you sit up there and you urged reporters to check into Coach Saban's background, to Nick Saban's background, and say, what was the intent of that? And do you feel like it
and that's over with. He and we're in great shape. We're great things, and we moved on.
You had said at that point it was over.
We've moved on.
Yeah. So things are good now between y'all?
We're in good shape. We're moved on.
That was it. 20 seconds. That was it. We've moved on.
Total cowardly response after blowing a flamethrower over the whole thing in May.
We've moved on.
Come on,
We've moved on. Nick Saban's press conference yesterday was about 20, 25 minutes. 0 questions. 0.
He didn't get asked about the opposing team's head coach for 25 minutes?
He mentioned Jimbo one time in the press conference, and the reason he mentioned Jimbo was somebody asked, hey, with Bryce Young maybe out, who's the backup quarterback, Taylor or whatever, that's more of a running quarterback, said one of the reporters, I love when they ask a question and start with like, hey, have you thought about? Yes, if you've thought about it, the person whose livelihood is about the team winning has thought about it. So he asked the question, have you thought about maybe a package specifically for Taylor, even if Bryce Young plays? And Nick Saban goes, we already have one. Do you want another one? Should we? Do you want us to create a new one? Should we use the new one? Should we use the one we already had? And he goes, what do you want me to tell you what we're going to? Should I call Jimbo up after this conference is over? Should I call Jimbo? We've got a decent relationship. I can call him up and tell him exactly what we're going to do. Like, I'm not sure what you want me to tell you here about what we're going to do. I'm not going to tell you what we're doing in the game. And look, the question, but it's just have you given any thought to maybe creating a specific package for your more dynamic running quarterback? Have you thought about that?
What if Nick Saban,
greatest coach of all time,
God of college football, and look into God, by the way, God of college football, he just stood up there and looked back at this report and just went, huh?
God.
No, well, wait, now run that by me again. So
bring him in to.
You know what? That's a great point. I will give that some thought.
Okay. Wow.
That's one of those lose-lose questions where, like, look, being a reporter in those moments can legitimately be really tough because all you are trying to do is not ask a stupid question that gets you blown up while learning something from an intelligent question, but not such an intelligent question that they are now being baited into giving too much away. There is a very narrow bell curve where your question will actually get a decent response. I would say, just top of my head right now, that's a third at best. You've got 33% of your questions that are going to be too stupid, 33% that are going to be too smart, and then 33% where maybe you can get a semi-honest answer, and even that's cut down to another third or something.
Who asked the question that we played that audio of last year?
The Steve Sarkisian one?
That's the one.
The extraordinary?
Yeah, so like that's what we call the 1%. We call that the top 1% of the top 1%.
When you unfold the onion.
Yeah.
You don't peel back the onion in this man's world. You are going to unfold. By the way, I've cut up onions. I've never unfolded one. I've never been able to unfold one.
You should really give it a try. Maybe you will be the exceptional man for this moment.
But I've tried to unfold them and they just peel apart. So that's the thing, is it just peels right apart. It doesn't unfold, which is an issue there. I would offer, though, eliminating any question that starts with, have you given some thought to? I'd eliminate that.
Do you remember what that audio file was called by chance?
Oh man,
you've got to soften that though too.
I know it was in the it was in the bracket of sound. I don't remember what seed it was, but I know it was in the bracket of sound somewhere. But like, I don't even know whatever way you ask it, you're probably going to get the same response of like, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to. Even if you go, hey, if Bryce Young plays, is there a chance that Taylor will play as well? That he might be utilized in that way. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do.
Right, and sometimes as the reporter in that spot, you just have to ask the question. So somebody asked the question, and everybody knew you weren't going to get a useful answer. Just the way all of that gets navigated is really tough. So I want to give appropriate credit there.
But it did prompt the only time that Saban said Jimbo's name.
But that is hilarious. It is hilarious to ask Nick Saban if he thought about this very obvious thing they've already done before. And then that's the time that he mentions the name of the head coach who tried to dig up some sort of skeletons in his closet in May.
Who said, reporters, go look into him.
Hey, reporters, there's a file cabinet on the 3rd floor in the Alabama football offices, room 207, 3rd drawer, 3rd floor. Open that up, see what's in there.
That's because he's 3-2, Josh. That's why.
Probably. Speaking of Nick Saban and former offensive coordinators, Steve Sarkisian. He's extraordinary.
Coach, a couple years ago, one of my good friends and I were faced with a massive problem we couldn't solve. And in his wisdom, he said, at this point, we need to stop and ask ourselves, what would an extraordinary person do?
It starts even worse than I remember.
Me too.
This resonated with me the whole weekend. I realized that of all the coaches who could be standing at that podium right now in those shoes, you are that extraordinary person. And you have a team of what I call coaching juggernauts. This is not only my opinion, this is a fact. It's a fact. I don't think anyone can dispute this. So my question is, we write, the Sarkisian era story. We're not even done with the first chapter yet. Can you unfold some of the onion of what are you working on? How are you solving this problem? I realize that you might not even know, but I'm going to steal from Julian Edelman. It's going to be one hell of a story.
By the way, that wasn't us coughing. I think that was somebody in the background trying to not laugh.
Yes.
Oh my God, this guy's.
I just instinctively, not even as a bit, I just doubled over, like in the position you would be in if you were about to barf on the floor. I still don't know who asked that question. I should try to figure it out. I don't just want to bleep on somebody.
We knew it at the time, but I don't care.
But I'm not kidding. It's the worst press conference question I've ever heard, and the worst framing of a press conference question I've ever heard. And like, if you want to say, hey, Sark, if you get this thing turned around, where's going to be the turning point? What do you think is going to be interesting about that? I almost just knocked over my coffee. I'm so mad at that question. Can we get the first just like 5 seconds again, Beers?
It's art. Because
it starts from his own life.
But when I hear it, I notice something different. It's like
It's
like you're looking at a piece of art, and you're like, oh, that little speck in the corner. I didn't notice that before. I had so much about unfolding the onion and extraordinary.
This is a Picasso.
The way it starts, I didn't even give enough relevance to.
Coach, a couple years ago, one of my good friends and I were faced with a massive problem we couldn't solve.
Time out. Okay, time out.
That's it. Yeah.
A couple years ago.
It's been festering for 2 years.
Years ago, he is going back to a conversation he and his friends were facing a massive problem.
Massive problem. Not sure what it was.
We got to find out. I want to get this. Can we maybe? Okay, hold on.
Is the answer Blue Chew? Is that what they ended up coming up with?
Can we find this guy? We do not let him hear any of this. We wipe all of this from the podcast page. We deny. But I want to get him on the show. Maybe he can help us go frame by frame through it. Maybe he has a sense of humor about it. I don't know.
I don't know. That guy seems pretty serious. He's got a massive problem that it took him 2 years to figure out, and that's why he was talking to Steve Sarkisian about it, because he wanted extraordinary people that are able to answer those things.
Well, to quote Julian Edelman at 2 minutes into the future, how long was that whole question, Beards?
44 seconds.
God, it felt like a bleeping lifetime. That question was longer than Davis Mills's neck.
I'm trying to find the name of the guy who asked the question, but I guess it really doesn't matter at this point. We can do it on the other side.
Yeah, I'm not trying to blow up his spot. I just want to get his contact info.
I present as a candidate, and we'll take a break at this. I present as a candidate in worst press conference question of all time, in cringy. John Calipari was at the podium. They had been struggling. They came out. They had an awesome game. And the first question was these exact words, because we played it 100 times. Let's go over to the front right. Coach, are we right?
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Nice job, Josh.
Nice job, Dylan.
Nice job, Christopher. Way to go, Beards.
Thank you.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, after that extraordinary segment,
Truly,
it takes an extraordinary man to unfold some onions, and his book is still in the first chapter. We'll hang out with Mick Shaffer in the next hour. Some shot clock reviews that we'll have as well.
Don't forget to do those, Mick.
Put a bow on the ZOUs.
Got 'em ready, boys.
You got him ready?
Yeah.
He's ready. He's here. He's ready. He's good to go.
He's extraordinary.
He is. And he's going to help us solve this massive problem my friends and I have had for the last 2 years. That's right. And I'm going to ask him, Mick, did you ever think about doing this at your TV station, doing TV sports? I do radio, but have you ever thought about something that's probably pretty obvious?
Hey, KC, it's Jack Johnson.
Thinking about finishing your bachelor's degree? Take a bold step forward during a University of St. Mary virtual info session. Register for the October 5th event. That's tonight at stmary.edu/RSVP. Game 162 is coming this afternoon for the Royals as they attempt to add one more win to their 65-96 record after falling to Cleveland 5-3 last night. Jonathan Heasley will get the last start of the year. The Chiefs right now are up to 7-point favorites against the Raiders on Monday Night Football on DraftKings. And, of course, this weekend, the highlight of the local football world, K-State hosting TCU for College Game Day as KU remains a dog. What did I say, K-State? I said K-State. Mick Shaffer is up next in the zone, criticizing the Sports Center in real time. You can hear Game Day and the pregame and the Kansas game all right here on your home for the Kansas Jayhawks, Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson.
It's called Late Night in the Fog, not Late Night with the Dog.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Boy, are fans going to be disappointed in Manhattan when they show up for game day.
Now, we got to give all this context.
Not only that, because if they show up for the game in Manhattan on Saturday, they're going to be even more disappointed.
I'm good with all of us explaining all this. You just can't leave that unexplained for people like the podcast listeners and whatnot.
I'm just going to go to the Sports Center.
Is messing up Sports
Center? Oh, you're
Center?
going to the Sports Center?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Never mind. Then everyone gets it. Fantastic.
Yeah, you got to.
So is that part of
stmary.edu? Appreciate them.
Is that part of Fat Bear Week?
So this is my first year as a practicing Fat Bear Week enthusiast. So I'm really still learning from Matt Derrick.
You've got two groups of tweets out there. One group is, damn, that's hilarious. They're just so witty and funny, so creative.
Yeah.
The other is like, I don't get it. There's maybe a third group of like just over the top like NFL nerddom analytics tweets. I'm like, okay, we got it, Josh. But really, it's two big groups, and the Fat Bear Week fell into the like, I don't get it.
We need to get Matt Derrick. So here's the thing: I don't want to schedule like Sunday Sound Off for you this week. I don't know if you're hosting it or what.
Aaron's going to, so go right ahead. Do whatever you guys want.
So
is it my week or is it Soren's? Because last week was supposed to be Soren's, but there wasn't.
It's yours because how Soren operates. If we skip a week or he skips a week, he doesn't make it up.
Okay, yeah.
It stays every other week.
Yeah, cool.
He's like, it's like Halloween. It's always going to be on October 31st, okay? You would think it'd maybe be more like Thanksgiving, fourth Thursday of every November. But no, for Soren, it's, hey, I know I missed this week, but next week's not my week. I missed my week. Those are my weeks. I'm not making it up. So it is your week.
So just tell Aaron to get Matt Derrick on and then ask Matt Derrick to use his FaceTime at the end, his final thoughts on Fat Bear Week, and he will give a better explainer in 30 seconds than I could give in 30 minutes.
Here's the deal. I feel like this is one of those things, one of those memes / turns of phrase that if I am not living on Twitter and I didn't see it at 9 a.m., it's going to be gone by 6 p.m. We're going to be moved on to something else.
This is an annual thing. The Bears are getting ready for hibernation, so you're seeing these bears bulk up in the wild here. Explore.org is where you can get explore.org/fat-bear-week will be a direct URL for you there.
Fat bear is literal. I thought it was
yeah. Sorry, this is about fat
like a
bears
or something.
getting fatter for hibernation and whatnot.
Okay,
I thought it was like cuffing season.
Yeah, no, it's very literal in this.
That's
case.
actually where you just go around handcuffing people, right?
That's exactly it. Yes.
Also, there are you can vote on the matchups here of each bear. Again, I've not voted in the past, and I don't want to vote yet until I know. But you can see here the bulk up, 164.
Oh, that's the same bear.
So this is the same bear. I'm assuming here. You vote for 335 or 164. Who fattened up better?
164.
Are we body shaming?
That's like Dallas Buyers Club there.
Yeah, no, 164 got thick.
Are we okay with body shaming bears now?
Well, here's the
Dallas
thing.
Bears Club.
Look at this. Look at 7. I think Matt had a pun for 747 because he looks like an airliner.
Dallas Bears Cub.
Oh! I'm going to keep finding that. Well, that sound was exciting. Beard, do you want to save that sound from Mick and just see if there's anything there for the future?
Put that with Brisco's turkey.
It's like a clink scale sound there.
It really was. No, it's not body shaming. It's body celebrating. We are celebrating the fat bears because they need to.
Peter's
going to
hate it. I mean, that's a given.
It's just observing in the wild, though, too. You know, these are just cameras they've got set up in the wild. It's basically a whole reality show. Again, this is. You maybe just come in at 11 on Friday, so when Matt is on, because we can continue to get him to
Fat Bear Week.
Really explain Fat Bear Week in the way that he's been following this for a long time. FatBearDigest.com. I might buy for him. Just hope that he'll start doing that.
Is there Fat Bear Digest?
Fat Bear Digest Quarterly?
Yeah. I'm. Oh, here we go. He's got the explainer. The brackets here and everything. I mean, incredible.
You know, Mr. Bear, me and my friends had a big problem a couple of years ago. We've been looking for an extraordinary eater, and you've unfolded onions before.
I was going to say,
you've eaten them.
if he's going to unfold an onion, it could be a bear.
You're going to eat the thing as well. Mick Shaffer, that's the voice you hear. He is presented by Kona Big Wave. Take a little break in single task tonight with Big Wave Golden Ale from Kona Brewing Company. How was the trip to Tampa? How was the game there? It was a dominant performance by the Chiefs, and all because you were in attendance, is at least what Patrick Mahomes said after the game.
No, yes, that's exactly what he said. No, they overcame my jinx, and kind of the numbers on Sunday Night Football, they certainly don't match the rest of their regular season, right? They feel like they lose more on KSHB than they should, but we love it when they win because it's late and people stay up. We have an hour-and-a-half post-game show, and people watch. And I think most people are like me. If my team loses, I'm like, turn off the TV, get away from anything that could remind me. I don't want to see a ticker even at the bottom of any sort of screen. Whatsoever. And so, but when you win and you win in that fashion, it excites people the rest of the night. Excites them going into this Week 5 matchup. That was a really we've seen every snap of Mahomes' career, right? So nothing really surprises us. But I didn't see that one coming.
The throw.
Just
that performance.
41-31 coming. That type of game, that type of bounce back from the offense. Was the most pleasant of surprises.
Yeah, we let's see, the most points we had them scoring between the four of us was me. I had him at 24. You fools. Mick, you had it 21-20.
Yeah.
Brisco had it 20-17, and Beards had it 3-2. So 24-17. I had the
for once.
widest margin and also the most points scored. Clearly, I got it right at 24-17.
I was walking out with Brett Veach. No big deal, guys.
By the way, I was thinking 24-17 is adding those up of what the Chiefs would get. That's what I meant.
41, yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Just like your
when
station.
they score the same number of points as our channel.
That's right.
They'd probably go 17-0. I'd probably lose a couple. But I was talking with Veach beforehand, and he was like, "You ready for a defensive battle?" I'm like, "Yeah," but usually whenever you say that, it goes the exact opposite. He goes, "I told my dad the exact same thing here," and we talked for a long time about, okay, these coaches, they hear the same stuff. They know, okay, what it's supposed to be, and it's almost like that extra attention to detail and focus to, okay, we're going to figure this out. And it often swings the other way, and it did that. And I can't believe the Chiefs gave up 31 points and won easily.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no drama.
They won
in the fourth quarter.
10 against the Bucs, and it didn't feel like it was anywhere near that close.
And it felt like the defense played a lot better than allowing 31 points.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been 24 if it weren't for that pick there at the end by Mahomes. Oh my God, what was he thinking?
He's so stupid.
Way to go. Way to have a horrible night.
Stop just playing street ball and throwing across your body. Get in the pocket, set your feet, step where you're going to throw the ball. Throw the ball
right before they get you, just like Tom Brady.
Move the chains. Do it again. This whole I'm going to spin move. I'm going to do it left-handed in a no-look, and I'm going to go sidearm to Kelsey when I'm running to my right and throw it to, running to my left and throw it to my right for a first down. Brr.
It's never going to work.
No.
For a fifth straight AFC Championship game hosted. I've said it the whole time.
You can't.
It's never going to end up in a fifth straight AFC Championship game that you're hosting.
I know this for a fact. He will not be able to do this, playing this style, for 15 straight years. For a fact. And I'll see you in 11 years from now or 10 years from now, but I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. I don't buy into it. He can do it for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, whatever. You don't have 15 years in that body playing like that. Sorry. What's
fact.
The point?
I don't know why he's doing it.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Always doing it. No, it was a great trip. It was a fun game. You could tell the one-on-one with Creed Humphrey on the field afterward, And then the guys at the podium, I wasn't able to get in the locker room, but everybody was really jazzed up, right? These are pros, and especially the Chiefs. They've been through so many wars. They're used to winning games, even on prime time. But this one in particular, I mean, they heard it, and it wasn't just the question afterward to Travis Kelce was like, okay, were you motivated more by the Indy performance last week, or by the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, or by the you just cut him off and like, yes, whatever you say, yes, throw it all in there. Throw it all in there. It was all a bad taste in our mouths, and it feels so good. He goes, right now there's, it's not a Super Bowl, but it feels so good right now.
Yeah,
it feels so good.
And Mahomes had talked about it after the game, and then again with Rich Eisen yesterday that he didn't really put much into the preparation of like, this is Tampa where we lost the Super Bowl and all of that stuff, and yeah, it maybe played a little bit of it, but it was more about we got to get the season back on track. And he said once he stepped out there on the field, like the memories came rushing back, and then it got the adrenaline going even more. And then that's when he had that extra bit of pumped up, extra bit of maybe bleep you in him, extra bit of focuses and don't let up. Let's keep pouring it on, because he continued to remember when you walk into a stadium, you go, hey, there's a pirate ship. I remember, son of a gun.
Oh, it's the pirate ship place.
It's a damn pirate ship place again. Coach, Andy, you didn't tell me we were going to the pirate ship place. Oh, son of a...
It was the one game where, like, the fan and media narrative and what we thought it was acknowledged by the players and coaches. Because afterward, we were all like, man, that was a team, that was an offense, even more specifically, that was an offensive line that looked like it had something to prove. And after the game, they all to a man said, man, we had something to prove.
Yeah, right.
They were like, no, you're right. This was big for us. And they came through.
And I love the anecdote that Sam McDowell told, and I've said it a couple times already, but I think it's indicative of maybe what the mission was and accomplishing that is Andy Reid, after the game was over, walked into the locker room, and Sam McDowell was in there, and he said he shook 6 players' hands: Patrick Mahomes, Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Andrew Wiley, did his press conference. And maybe he does that every single game with this offensive line, because we haven't been in the locker room, in the last couple of years until this year. Maybe that's something that's just tradition. But I would guess that there was maybe a little bit more to the fact he walks in and spots those 6 guys and then does his press conference.
He was on the offensive line all week.
Yeah.
It was a hell week, and I think Kelce alluded to it, that it kind of bled over to the rest of the offense, because he said, okay, when Reed's getting on those O-linemen, it's for everybody there. And so that's like we talked about on Sunday Sound Off. Okay, is this the Chiefs? And no, I don't expect that type of performance every week. It's just probably impossible to do in the NFL. But Kelce had a great line. He's like, if we put as much attention to detail, as much focus into every week as we did last week, this could be the norm. It's not scary and great for Chiefs fans. Scary for the rest of the NFL. Great for Chiefs fans. And just fun. I mean, just a yin and a yang, right?
Yep.
From the Colts performance to the Bucs performance, and 3-1 is kind of it's not the first quarter of the season anymore. I guess we'll get there after the first quarter of the next game.
23.5%. We did this math in hour 1. It's 23.5%. I'm rounding up, but it's 23.5.
Because typically I could go back to the ZOUs and go, well, they've played 4 games. Let's see what the pace is. Well, now I'm not going to pace 23.5%.
They really screwed that up with the 17th game.
Ridiculous, man. So 913-912-4810. Last night, Aaron Judge hit number 62.
What?
And
has he been close this whole time?
No, 60-second double.
I've only watched college football.
Still waiting for another one.
I never mentioned it.
But
he plays in probably a big old ballpark too, right?
That's what makes it more difficult.
Yeah,
is that he does that. We were talking about it in the break in the previous hour. Did you see the fans in the stands when the ball was flying to left field, number 62, where that's going to be a pretty significant home run to catch?
The one that dropped down?
The guy that wasn't anywhere near close to it, that jumps down the railing.
Smart.
I thought was as brilliant of a move. I mean, the other guy was lucky. Like, you're in the right spot. Good play, though. He went over there and he caught it. He stole it from the people in the seat it was going to land in. But you know what? Go catch the ball.
You knock over, like, just a whole row of pregnant women there for
whatever you
some sort of baby shower, right? If you have to.
Then you apologize. You give them a couple $100 when you get all this money for the baseball, and you call it a day, and everybody wins. But this guy jumps down. out of the stands in case the ball falls down
Smart.
there.
I have no chance of getting it
it's
here.
Great.
And how many times do we see it? Probably half the home runs that hit in the first couple rows bounce off your palm because that thing's still, it's not 100 miles an hour still, but it's still humming, and those are hard to catch. And yeah, that was very smart. I'm disappointed that it didn't pay off for him because I'm sure he would have been, if not arrested, kicked out. But there's no, I mean, you can't take that ball away from
it's my possession.
him, right? Yeah.
It's my possession, yeah.
I am finding a way to, like, put that on my person, maybe in my person, Josh.
Cold, dead hands.
Yep.
However,
I don't like that the preposition changed.
What about around?
Maybe around me.
At.
What
Yes.
about up in?
I
like a board. I'm a big aboard guy.
I will put that baseball aboard my person.
That's right. That's what I will do.
All right. Luckily, I have these cargo shorts. How else am I going to wear a hammer on my person if I don't have these cargo shorts and of course the baseball? I've watched the video way too many times that I started like dissecting, like looking at everybody else. So that guy jumps. The guy who makes the catch moves over like 8 seats. Runs over 8 seats to go and make the catch. The guy who was there that was, reaching up, that was going to catch it, whose glove gets knocked to the side because he wasn't strong enough, actually looks in his glove and was like, oh, that guy got it. But the one that's most egregious is if you watch it again, there's a guy directly behind the guy who caught the ball, and he's leaning back away from the ball, scared to touch it.
Oh, God.
Like,
who put beta males out there in left
fired.
Field?
You're fired,
if
dude.
you're afraid of that baseball, there's nothing you won't fear at some point.
He was leaning away from it like this with his hands up and sort of eyes squinched
if
while the other guy is running
ball
across.
in your mouth like a dog,
Yes!
You will be able to buy yourself new teeth every day for the rest of your life.
That $5 million is gonna hurt. I don't know how much how much is he gonna get?
Well, he said, quote, I haven't decided what to do with the ball yet. End quote. Yeah, you have.
I think somebody said something like $2 or $3 million was the estimate. I have no idea.
Yeah, I've decided for you. You sell it. And Aaron Judge, by the way, has said, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something along the lines of, the ball belongs to him. It's his baseball, fan sport. He caught it. It's his property. He's got the right to it. We'll see what happens and if Aaron Judge ever gets it, but I think Aaron Judge could probably spare the $2 or $3 million.
He'll
if he
be able to afford it very soon.
Number 62.
I think he said, I'd like to have it back, but the guy caught it. So
yeah, that's what it was. So like it was a fan. It went into the stands.
Also, he has the
He's
bat.
got it.
That's the more impressive part of. I'm just thinking about this now, but all the home run balls and everything. The more impressive part of the equation is the bat used to hit that thing 400 feet
Not
or
the
whatever.
more expensive part of the equation. Though,
Well,
is
but
it?
that's only because players never sell their own bat, right? Like it just gets to the fans, and then us fans can be out here trying to sell
What if the bat boy ran up and grabbed the bat?
See,
and then,
that's what I'm saying.
And then went and hid.
Somebody's got to next time run on the field, grab the bat, and try to get out of there before anybody catches you.
But see, he wouldn't be able to then keep that. So with the bat, because the bat boy would then be fired. But you're like, do I get fired for like $2 or $3 million? Yes, but would you then be able to keep the bat if you then took it and then left the stadium, as opposed to the ball leaving the grounds of play?
It's got to be how you would sell a stolen painting. Like there has to be some black market, like secret deep web stuff.
Can I reprint this bat?
Yeah, it's an NFT of a bat.
Sell the reprint of the bat and keep the original. I don't know.
I feel like we should spend more time talking about the value of the bats rather than the individual baseball itself. But we spend on the ball.
I've never thought about the bat. It's always been about
that's
the ball.
The tool used to hit the ball far. You know, the ball.
Right.
The ball did the wrong thing from the pitcher's perspective. That started in the pitcher's hands. He wanted that ball to stay in the park.
Actually, a home run is a mistake. You want to hit line drives. When you make a little bit of a tiny mistake, that's when you hit home runs.
He did hit a line drive all the way over that fence out there.
Aaron Judge never touched that ball.
He did not.
Aaron Judge has probably never touched that in particular baseball.
This is a great stump. I love that you're stumping on this.
2 people have ever touched that ball that we know of. The pitcher and the guy who caught it.
Umpire, maybe.
Catcher,
probably.
You're right.
It depends on, how the ball got out. But I'm saying it's probably 4 people or so.
That's a good
point.
point.
But Aaron Judge never touched that baseball.
That's a good point.
What's the point? What's the point of that ball? Aaron Judge didn't even touch it. He hit it with a stick.
Could you maybe, if you're the pitcher... This is going to be so stupid, but here we go.
Welcome to the zone, everybody.
This is the one that's going to be stupid.
Before you throw a pitch, just retire the ball and say, this was going to be the ball. I was going to throw 89 miles an hour over the middle of the plate, and he was going to knock this out. So this is really going to be the ball.
It's the more valuable one right here.
And so this is okay. I'll sell it for $2 million. Okay. All
right.
And then throw him, curveballs in the dirt.
Mick, I got another one for you.
Okay.
You know that little paddle ball game? You got a little wooden paddle rubber ball at the end, that elastic string. Bung, 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 bung.
Yeah, I know it.
Get a really long string. The pitcher,
the
pitcher has the elastic string tied to the ball, throws the meatball to Aaron Judge. He crushes it. It lands out of play, and then the pitcher yanks it back.
The string is 420 feet of string, just in case.
Correct.
It gets over the fence, and he pulls it back.
It probably needs to be shorter than that with the stretch. But yeah, 300 feet or so.
Or you throw a drone ball.
Drone ball's a great idea.
I'm sure
you can control
the military has created a drone baseball, and so not only can you control it by going out, but then once it lands, bam, it bounces right back to you.
So magnets are fascinating, right? So here's what I'm thinking.
Are they?
God, I wish I caught that ball.
By the way, the fan that says I haven't thought about it.
DraftKings just isn't going well for me, guys. Okay.
Like the guy says I haven't thought about it. You sat front row at that game in the outfield, in left center or left field. You thought about what you do if you caught the
Nick
ball.
Saban. He's thought about everything on his football team. That guy's thought about everything, what he would do with the baseball.
It would have been better to ask the guy that caught the home run ball if he's thought about Alabama using a special package for Taylor in the game if Bryce Young is hurt.
He probably, dropped $1,000 for that seat?
Those seats are pretty expensive, man.
Especially down the stretch here?
Yeah.
With
Front
60,
row,
61, and 62?
Left field, front row.
Left field, front row, absolutely. If you're dropping $1,000 for the seat, you're not like, honey, what are you going to do with the ball? I don't know. I just want to go catch a game. I just want to go catch a game at that exact location where he's hit like 43% of his home runs.
Haven't even thought about it. No idea.
I think the unwritten rule is that once you are an adult, you don't take your baseball glove to games
you do for that
foul
one,
balls and stuff.
That one you do.
If you have that seat, I'm going and buying a lefty glove also. I'm going to be out there wearing two gloves just to
I think you keep your one-hand glove list to hold off people more because you can reach across your body and make a catch just fine.
I don't know, man, you can smack someone in the face with one of those gloves and it would hurt.
Yeah, but you got to think. But you got to think of it this way.
That's keeping them off.
But you got to go back to Little League. When the ball's on the ground, how do you pick up the ball? Not with your glove. You bury it, right? You stick it in. You bury it.
Need that.
Right,
but it's gonna be a fly ball.
Right, but if it bounces off or something like that, if the gloves hit each other and bounces up, now it's on the ground. You've got your glove on your right hand that you're going to reach for.
One glove's all you need.
Okay,
you got to go and bury that with your you're trying to bury the ball into the ground. Is how you pick up the baseball, and you need that hand free to be able to do that.
And listen, when you catch that home run ball, you're like a catcher in 1975 at home plate, and Pete Rose is coming at you.
Yes.
You have the ball in your glove, you put your hand in your glove to hold on to it, and you hold on, you're ready for a train.
And you're ready to be broken.
Yes.
You're broken,
if you
you're broken.
Spiked, you are prepared for that emotionally ahead of time.
Yeah.
There could be cleats in your neck, and that's the price you're willing to pay.
That's the whole deal. Like, if that happens in Kansas City, it's fine, everybody's nice. New York,
I don't think
someone's going to shank you. Yeah. Going up those stands, and I saw he finally got security. But
that was in Texas, though, right?
What's that?
That was in Texas, right? That it happened.
Yes.
But so I don't.
Was it last night?
Yeah.
In Texas?
Is he a local guy? Is he was he a guy that traveled around? I have no idea.
Mean people in Texas too.
But
save my point.
Oh, I don't think even if it was here at Kaufman and that ball goes into left field, I think people are fighting. I think you're crawling over people.
Someone's getting drowned in the fountain.
I would almost do it that one other guy. You catch the ball, roll over into the bullpen. Just jump off.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and the other
safe there.
And the other thing is, if it's in the fountain, you're diving in.
Oh, yeah.
You're diving in the fountain.
Give me a citation.
Yeah.
KCPD.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also, you're probably going out there with that fish net type thing.
That's
for
what
the
I was thinking about, a collapsible net sort
Yeah.
of thing you could smuggle in. I'm sure you could make that happen.
And then also, what you do, I love the idea about the cargo pants in you have
That's a sentence no one's ever said before.
nine pockets.
So did the 90s.
9 pockets. You have a fake baseball, a real baseball, but in each one of those pockets to throw people off the scent. Like you're running away, and then I dropped the baseball. Oh no! And they go after that baseball. You got the real one right there.
So you keep a fake one in your ball sack pocket, and then you just take that and throw it out behind you.
Exactly you reach into your ball sack and you take one out. But also what you could do is, let's say you're in a row where the ball is pacing towards you and you've got these balls in your sack. As that ball is heading towards you, you take one out and fire it in the air.
Oh, like 6 rows away.
Yes.
Like just some interference.
Yeah, like what do they call it with
Love that.
with fighter jets? Submersive fire or whatever that when they
cover fire
for the heat-seeking missiles.
Yeah, they spit the stuff out of the back or whatever.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
whatever they call that. Like that would be where you're throwing the baseballs up in the air. You know, that's what you're doing, and everybody's like, "Well, which baseball is it?" I know which baseball it is. The one that I've been. Yeah, like whatever those things are called.
I would end up screwing that up though. I would throw the wrong one. Like when I get you guys QT, I'm like, wait, which one was the Diet Coke? Which one was Beard's regular Coke?
I wondered why my blood sugar was 900 after the last week.
I think it's suppressive fire. Is that what it is? Maybe suppressive.
That
something
makes
like that.
sense.
Yeah. Either way, that's what you would do. That's what I would do. It's always better for the scene when somebody doesn't catch it clean. When it falls, and then it's like I think was it Pujols' 700th home run that wasn't caught cleanly or 699 or 7, one of them wasn't caught cleanly, and it was the stands just started like a dog pile, everybody just jumping on top. Like, what are the odds of you're the 10th person on top, the ball making its way up to you? Probably not good, but just in case, you never know. But it was caught clean last night.
Sorry, I'm learning about chaff, a countermeasure for fighter planes.
That's what I said. It's just like some chaff just throwing out there. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and shot clock reviews coming up next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. In the Zone.
Nonstop. Right hand, left hand, nonstop, Josh.
With Jason Anderson.
At the time, it is the only thing I want to do.
Yeah.
The next day, I 100% regret it every time.
Yeah.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer hanging out with us. So, trying to find the leaders in Major League Baseball this year, because trying to see how many points behind in batting average is Aaron Judge to Arise. He's 4 points behind. So Luis Arise is 315. Aaron Judge is batting 311. So he's not going to catch him for the Triple Crown. I was wondering that because they just said breaking news: Aaron Judge is not in the lineup tonight for the Yankees. So he is not playing today, and Luis Arise then doesn't have to play either to get the batting title at 315. So Judge will not be a Triple Crown winner.
And Judge isn't going to catch Barry Bonds. I was holding out hope, man.
Were you?
I really was. What do you only need, 12 more, 13 more tonight?
Because then he could be the real, true home run king, which he already is. 12 more tonight, and we won't have to argue about 73 or 62 ever again.
I didn't anticipate this all playing out like this. And that, I guess I should have known it's New York.
Yeah.
And 61 is still celebrated there by most.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But, yeah. Count me in the, I don't need interruptions into my college football camp.
All right. Here's why this happens. What else did baseball have to sell you this week? And the answer is a playoff chase, but effectively it's nothing because we don't even. It's a local sport.
Let's do shot clock reviews, and I'm going to go ahead and go first in shot clock reviews.
Man.
And what I am reviewing is ESPN cutting into Aaron Judge and all of the different at-bats. I think it was fine a couple of times. He got to 59. You wanted to watch a few at-bats. Is he going to get to 60? But then every single time in the breaking news scroll, Aaron Judge is on deck, and then they cut in, and you watch him, and it's a 7-minute at-bat, and then he walks and the crowd boos, and it's, cool. I'm glad we got to see whatever was on TV in the little box. And then for 61, the same thing. In 62, we've seen every single Aaron Judge at-bat for the last 2 weeks. I give it a 6.2 out of 10 for 62.
Well, I mean, when you're situated directly halfway between Boston and New York, and probably 40% of your employees are from Boston, and 40% are from New York, the worldwide leader becomes very, very regional.
We know for a fact that if Aaron Judge were wearing a Royals uniform going for 62, that they would not
It'd be the last thing on PTI, like 25 minutes in, right before the Happy Trails.
It would have been breaking news. Aaron Judge hit number 62 on the bottom line scroll. That would have been it. It wouldn't have been a breakaway. He hit number 62.
PTI would be doing 5 good minutes with Pete Alonso, and then the bottom would say Salvador Perez hits home run number 63. New AL record.
I hand the baton to Beards.
I like this. I like just call out who gets it next.
The baton to Beards for his shot clock review.
I will talk about a very specific part. No spoilers of the last House of the Dragon episode.
Okay.
People complaining that the episode was too dark. So listen, before I watched the episode, I saw on Twitter and I saw an article. People are complaining again about there were some parts of the episode that were too dark or whatever.
By lighting, literal lighting.
By lighting. I watched the episode on my laptop with the brightness turned down, and by the end of it, I went, I have no idea what people are talking about here. I don't even know what scene they were talking about. It was fine. People need to stop complaining. Get a new TV instead of that old tube one that you've got. I'd give it the episode a 9 out of 10, but I'd give the complaining about it 2 out of 10.
So literal dark.
Great review.
I thought we were joking and saying the lighting was dark.
No.
I thought we were being sarcastic.
No, we're being serious.
I thought people were saying it's too dark, as in
I can remember
the
Game
Red
of Thrones,
Wedding.
a lot of episodes were literal dark.
Paris Hilton just gave us a 24-second review of Stop Being Poor, Get Rid of Your Tube TVs. Beards, that was incredible.
That's a great point.
What a turn for you.
That's a great point. TVs. All right, Beards, who's up next?
Let's go with Mick.
All right. I'm going to do a review of my layover in Newark on my way back from Tampa to Kansas City.
New Jersey?
I don't know how familiar you all are with maps.
Yeah, not great.
But Newark's not on the way back from Tampa to Kansas City. If I was going to Newfoundland, if I was the sports director at the NBC in a town in Newfoundland, it would have been perfect and made total sense. As it was, it didn't make any sense, and it made me really mad. And I give it a 1 out of 10 just because I was able to see the Statue of Liberty, which is right next to the
exciting.
Newark airport as you're flying in.
The only reason it even got a point out of that.
That's why.
Mick, who's up next for you?
I'm gonna if we get a pick, I'm gonna throw a curveball. I'm going back to Jason.
That's fine. I think
you
this
might
is
have to
okay.
go 2 in a row.
That's all right.
Whatever we
I'm
do,
prepared
2
for
in
it.
a row.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. I think this is the way that it goes now.
Okay. My shot clock review is about bad fantasy beats and those that always want to act like they don't care.
Nobody cares.
It's not true. It is
I don't
not
care.
true. People actually do care. They may not specifically care about your league and what the point system is and who's on your team, but they do have an interest in wondering how the loss actually took place. If they didn't, nobody would care about bad beats on ESPN with Stanford Steve and SVP because did you actually have money on that? No, but you're interested in how that bad beat came about.
Nobody cares.
I think people do care.
Nobody cares.
I give the nobody cares a
Nobody
1
cares.
out of 10.
Nobody cares.
Same number of people that care.
Nobody cares.
Thank you, Beards.
Nobody cares.
I'm going to hand it over.
How is the Statue of Liberty, Mick?
It was great. I feel like the bad beats, at least you're seeing it play out, and it's a wild ending to games and all that stuff.
Yeah, yep.
I don't even care about my own fantasy league team.
But let me just say, though.
Somebody said Jonathan Taylor's out tomorrow?
Yeah, he is.
I will need to get to my lineup at some point in the next day.
Before tomorrow.
Yeah.
But to say that nobody cares would eliminate also me, and I do care,
okay,
so
yeah.
it can't
Nobody
literally
cares.
be that. Damn it.
I don't care.
I'm going to give it to Brisco. I care.
Wow.
Hey. I want to talk about
Nobody
NFL
cares.
Street 2. So this is a video
Please,
game.
Beards.
This is a video game that came out one day before my 10th birthday. Why am I talking about this game right now? Well, because it was the first and only thing that I played all the way through right now on my new Steam Deck. The new Steam Deck is incredible, all sorts of processing power. I have used it to play a GameCube game from 2004, which remains one of the greatest football games, and frankly, just one of the greatest arcade-style football games of all time. Aesthetically, gameplay, rosters, customization, it's beautiful. It's a 10 out of 10 video game, even almost 20 years later.
Does Renee like playing on your Steam Deck?
I'm going to give it to myself.
All right, Brisco, you're up again.
I would like to review. I'm not going to do this yet. I want to review this one donut from Lamar's that Beards always gets. So sometimes Beards goes and gets donuts, and he'll ask, "Hey, do you want a donut? What do you want?" I have a whole big board now, so he kind of knows, "Hey, this is my ideal donut, whatever." The sour cream old-fashioned donut at Lamar's is it's a diversion from any other sour cream old-fashioned donut I've had in an elevated way. It is truly unique. I recommend it 100%. Maybe the best donut I've ever had. A little bit off the beaten path, but if you're interested in old-fashioned donut, that one's a 9.5 out of 10.
An old-fashioned donut. Is it with the bourbon?
Yeah, I dunk it in bourbon. That's why.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why I like it so much. Did I not mention the bourbon part?
I mean, a little hair of the dog.
It's a real Steam Deck move by me.
Who's up next?
Beards!
Oh, excellent.
Go again, Beards!
Sure, why not? You talked about video games. I'm going to talk about a sports video game. NBA 2K22.
Nobody cares.
Specifically the My Career Mode. So they've done a weird thing over the last couple of years where they have decided, especially in this one, not only is there basketball, but there's also, you have to play out the whole career or whatever. There are now quests and stuff, and there is a mini map needed in my basketball game. I don't need these things. The basketball is still fine, but there's way too much extra stuff going on. I just want to play basketball. I'm on the Denver Nuggets. I just want to keep playing basketball. It's like a 6 out of 10. The gameplay is fine, but there's too much other stuff going on.
Zelda in the middle of your basketball game.
I didn't know that 2K was open world now.
We had somebody come by the other day from the house for bugs people, and I had just the
You have
mini map up.
You have bug people in your house?
Yeah, and I just had the mini map up on the screen, and he looked at it, and he was like, "Oh, what's you playing?" I was like, "Oh, new NBA game." He was like, "I never would have guessed." And I was like, "Yep, I get you."
Yeah, thanks, jerk. I'm playing the new NBA game. Thanks, jerk. Yeah, okay. No, I'll just go ahead.
No, seriously.
I'll just kill all your bug people in the house.
Have you considered NFL Street 2, Beards? I know it's an older game, but it's perfect.
I have not.
Have you considered fantasy football?
Nobody cares.
Mick, you're up next.
All right, I'm going to review my trip to the original Hooters in Clearwater, Florida.
Nobody cares.
Whoa, hold on.
That was
I do care.
I went to the original Hooters in Clearwater, Florida. Turns out it's not just about owls, okay? Turns out also they launched it on April 1st, 1983, because they all thought it was going to be a joke and a flop. Turns out it was an amazing success. All the founders, or most of them, are from Waverly, Iowa. So there's Waverly, Iowa memorabilia in Clearwater, Florida.
Give him a rebound. I want a rebound on this one. Give him a rebound.
And then I got a rebound. There used to be a Hooters airline operating from 2003 to 2006, and I totally missed the boat or the plane on that one. So much cool stuff. They have a graveyard out front for all the businesses in that building that had existed in the previous years because it was the joke. It's not going to last. It did last. It turned into an American institution, and that was just like a regular Hooters, which was fine with me.
Behind me just now, Adam said that there used to be it was an airline. It was what now?
There was at one point they owned an arena football team called the Miami Hooters.
Wow,
incredible! I need a number, Mick.
What's the?
We need a number out of 10.
I give it double D out of 10.
Turns out, and this is a shocker, people really like chicken wings.
Yeah.
The ham sandwich is really good there too.
Absolutely.
Boy,
that's it, right?
Sorry, you've ordered
twice?
I walked into a Hooters and ordered a ham sandwich.
Yeah, I'm not a big wings bone-in guy.
Everybody good?
They have fish
Everybody
in
went?
Hooters?
Everybody
I
reviewed?
loved it. I couldn't find any.
Do you like seafood?
Love it.
I knew it. Do you get the seafood at a chicken place and chicken at a seafood place?
Just to spice it up a bit.
All right, let's put a bow on the zone over-unders for the Royals next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You know what makes me nervous about today's show?
Where do we begin? Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, let's go through the ZOUs. We already know what happened, so we might as well let people know.
I'm off the hook on this, right?
You are.
Do I get free lunch regardless?
I feel like this is just landing right on my face.
Nobody cares. So
I will care if it
that's
lands
true.
on my
That's
face.
true. We do have a little bit of a surprise on Friday in that Corey is going to be hanging out the last hour and a half of the show.
He's here? Gonna be here?
He's got a big charity event coming up this weekend, and so he's going to stop in on Friday. We're going to talk to him about that as well. And he texted me last night. He goes, "Hey, did I lose ZOUs? Because if I did, I'll pay up on lunch." And I was like, "Sorry, it's Beards and Mick. I apologize."
Come on.
Beards and Mick tied for the final.
You couldn't lie to him and to us. I mean, he wanted to. He's a house husband. He has nothing better to do than just to fly to Kansas City and get us lunch.
But he could always just simply get us lunch out of the kindness of his heart, and then you guys could pay up.
So we
eventually at
tied.
some other time.
We tied?
Yeah, so
technically, Beards, we didn't get fourth. We tied for third.
Yes, because Corey and I tied for first.
So actually,
Josh
we tied
wasn't
for
part of
second.
this. Okay.
We tied for second.
Nah, well,
Josh gets to partake in the revelry.
Yeah, I'm
He
going to
gets
get to eat. This is great.
Yes. So the finals were Grinky, we set wins at over under 12.5.
Oh, where did that end?
He finished with 4.
Okay.
Bubich ERA, we just set it at 4 because we were deciding to get a little frisky. He ends at 5.58.
I feel like I got both those right?
Yeah, we all got all of these right because the over-unders were set poorly in this one, which is why there's tied at 7 and tied at 6. Not a wide variance. So Keller's ERA, we put it at also 4 because his final 9 starts of the year before was like a 3.2. So it was like, okay.
No, this is going to be
He's
him.
5.09. Scott Barlow saves. We set it at 20 and a half.
I can't believe that was the one.
24. He could get 25 today. 24, I was the only one that took the over. That's the difference of me having 7 and not having.
I didn't even believe he was going to be their closer all year.
I know, right? Wins, we set it at 75.5. They are not going to get there. You can't get 10.5 wins in one day.
Did we all go under?
You just need a couple hot weeks here.
We all went over. Corey went under.
Oof.
I went over 75.5 wins.
Yes, you did.
We all thought they were going to be good this year.
Finish.
We should know better.
Finish.
Save this tape.
Finish in the Central. We put it at 3.5. Under is finishing first or second or third. Yeah. Over is finishing 4th or 5th. Corey had the over.
We had under?
We all had the under.
I
were all
think I
stupid.
misunderstood it.
Nope,
Can you
because
mine?
you said you had him finishing 3rd.
Ugh.
Because you're dumb.
I
had him winning and winning the World
me
Series.
in March. March me sucked.
The funniest one is that Mondesi stolen bases. We put it at 42.5.
I nailed that one.
And Corey and I both went over. Corey, the first time he was ever positive, went over. You guys went under, and at last check, he's got 5.
We're smart people.
He had 5. He ended with 5. So close. If you then
Still a game left, man. I mean, come on.
You know what? If you take that out through the full season, come on.
Yeah, if you would have played 162, I think you would have hit the over. I think you guys are right.
Salvi home runs, we set at 39.5.
Oh.
He's at 23, so he could get to, I mean, in theory, he could get like 27.
I went under there, right?
Yes, you did. You did not lose that one. Nicky Lopez batting average.
Oh,
we set it at 285. Corey and I went under. You and Beards went over. He is 227.
You guys, these are some optimistic odds.
He hit 300 last year.
Well, that was split 2 and 2.
Yeah,
like those
I get
because he hit 300 last year.
This is just slanted in favor of thinking the Royals would be okay. And
Bobby Witt Jr. combined home runs and stolen bases of 45.5.
There you go. You got one.
I went under, I think.
He's at 50. No, you went over.
Okay, good.
Beards went over. I went over. Corey went under. So he lost
Feels
that
like
one.
I'm winning.
Yep, he lost that one.
Listening right,
but yes, and we all have the same exact number on Bobby Witt's Rookie of the Year finish. So that's not going to matter at all. We all picked the same thing.
What did you? Was that?
So
did y'all have him winning it?
We picked him to finish first or second. Everybody said he would finish first or second. The over-under was 2.5.
I got you. Got it.
So does he finish at first and second, or does he finish
so it doesn't
outside
matter.
Of that? So it doesn't matter.
Was
so
he going to finish second, you think?
Finish second, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think he should finish second, but even if he finishes third, we all had him finishing first or second, so we would all miss it.
Right.
So
okay, so let's
Corey
get some
and me,
orders
7.
together, and
Mick and Beard 6.
Beards can go buy it, and I'll get you back, Beards. You know,
I got
I'll
you.
Venmo ya.
Beards, there's this seafood place that I've been dying to try.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we can do that.
I'm sure you'd love it. I would love it.
Long John Silver's. Hooters.
Who gets to pick where we go?
The people that win.
That win.
What's all
Winners
this
pick.
wheat crap, Brisco? I mean,
I'm just attending.
Yeah, well,
and
he's
I gotta know what I'm gonna win for the Chiefs. So
Right, he needs to know the rules for the
does,
Chiefs.
yeah.
ZOUs. When he's paying and buying us lunch. It'd be great. Thank you, Mick.
Thank you. You're welcome for Friday.
See you
too.
Friday. Program next.
Stand up and